Well, we're gonna try some new shit. I said a video game and I lied. I lied to you. It's the video game of life. So we have two little tasks. We got some videos we're gonna watch. We have two little tasks. I want to try. These kind of suck ass low-key. I want to try and make my own. I don't know if I can. I was like, I have some leather somewhere, and then I had this purple leatherish stuff. I don't know if it's real or not. It doesn't smell like plastic, which most faux leather does smell like plastic. I do have some fake leather that is black and smells like the most plasticky plastic I've ever smelt. But I think this is real. And then dyed purple. I only sort of know what fibercraft is. So I'm going to try and make little finger caps for these, like the ones that came with my needle felting kit. I'm trying to decide if I should cut them in half or just go for it. I think I'm lazy and therefore going to just go for it, but I might mark it up a little bit with these. These are what I use for... It's also a pill bottle, although it hasn't been for a minute. These are what I use instead of pins, usually when I'm doing doll sewing, which is really small, to mark where I want to, you know, keep my seams closed. That's about where I want them. Trying to make sure it fits. And I go around that layer. And then this one for my thumb. It's leaving purple crumbs all over my little, not really a tablecloth. This one's going to be harder to pin on. Ugh. I did get some extra thick needles. I don't know if I'll need them. I'm going to see if I can just do it with my other needles, but you know. And then the top. We can trim the excess. These are like a bit longer than they need to be, but I will do that in a minute. We'll get there. We'll get there. So like that line just about. That's where we want that guy to be. Okay. Hopefully they're somewhat comfortable to wear even with that nonsense on them. But yeah, I found some new videos to watch along with, and then the other thing I wanted to do was make kitties! At work we tried to do needle felting. It was somewhat successful. There was only one minor stabbing incident. But we also I made this little guy. He's slightly misshapen, malformed, but he's still cute. I'm going to make more. I made a bunch of balls while I was waiting around for Thanksgiving to kind of happen. So we'll have some cats of, you know, all the different cats. I'm going to make a gray one like the kitty that I have. There's purple dust on you. You're shedding like a motherfucker. And maybe like a calico. And then, I don't know, other patterns of cats that exist. But we're going to watch videos. This is, what's your channel called again? Bisley. He's making some of, like, the most high effort video game reviews, and they're really cool. I want to show them off, so here we go. While I sew my shit.
And goofy charm. Where's everyone going? Bingo? They're like the video game equivalent of those cheesy Amazon Prime movies, right up there with Sharknado 5, Global Swarming. That is until the series lost touch with its roots and began moving in a more action-packed direction.
These are like
This
embroidery
led to
needles.
fans losing interest in the franchise after the disaster that was Resident Evil 6.
What the?
So for Resident Evil 7, rather than trying to be the next Call of Duty, the game was narrowed down to a smaller, more focused story. And that focus
Maybe that one.
was on scaring the pants off you. They went from trying to be the next Michael Bay.
Look at all the editing that is going into this. He's editing himself into the game. This is like the car from Resident Evil 7.
Film using classic horror movies as a blueprint for this game. And while it was a huge risk, it may have resulted in one of the greatest survival horror games I've ever played.
They look so
In this
cool.
game, we take the role of Ethan
Look at his
who recently
face.
got a message from his wife Mia telling him to come here. Now, this is strange because 2 years ago, Mia went missing, leaving behind
you
not
open-
a single clue as to where she could be.
Oh, that's
Mia
such
told
a
us to
mess.
come find her all the way out here in Butt Cheek, Louisiana. But
Butt Cheek,
thankfully,
Louisiana.
There is nothing out here. Supposedly, she's inside that weird murder house, and we've got to go in and get her out.
Can you stab it, okay?
Once we
That's
actually
gonna be
get
a
into the
mess
house and
now.
walk through this clearly PT-inspired hallway, we're introduced to one of the biggest horror elements that this game uses. Rot.
Rot! Let's use a smaller one.
This
Ugh.
kitchen that looks like the inside of Twitch streamer's bedroom plays a fundamental role in
My bedroom doesn't look like that, no!
as soon as you walk in the door. The room is full of
Come here.
rotten food, weathered furniture, and little bugs scurrying all around.
Yeah.
Clues hidden around pointing at what evils might be lurking among us. And over here on the table, we got a little environmental storytelling, which is my favorite. There's a newspaper detailing the disappearance of over 20 people in the last 2 years. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out what's going on here.
Okay. It's leather, so it's not going to be fun, but we persist.
Bears. Just around the corner from this nasty kitchen is the attic. And you already know, when you're in the murder house, you gotta go up in the attic. This is the first of many save rooms. It's something that is incredibly iconic for Resident Evil and makes a lot of sense for a horror game. Because it would be way less scary if you could just quick save and quick load whenever you wanted to. Although thankfully, you can
I
save.
want him to give this treatment to the bunker. He mentioned it in one of his videos that was, like, about horror games in general. But I want, like, the full treatment. Where did I just put that? Jesus, I'm losing my needles. This is bad. They're going to stab me and when I'm unawares.
Save as many times as you want. Unlike the first few games where saving depended on an item, and if you didn't have any more of that item, you couldn't save the game. All right, we've had our taste of the rancid, rotten horror, but a horror game full of horror tropes would be incomplete without a little bit of analog horror. Inspired by stuff like the Blair Witch Project and The Ring, Resident Evil 7 has these VHS tapes placed all over. But this isn't a rare VHS taping of Bambi straight from the Walt Disney Vault. Oh no. These are tapes made by different characters within the game and are used to reveal secrets.
Pro tip from someone who makes the mistake frequently. Try not to make your working thread longer than your arm. Because otherwise it's a pain. So look, I'm measuring it with my arm. I don't know how under the camera that is. But the thread is now about as long as my arm. Which is about as long as you want it. Because if it's any longer, it gets irritating.
Passageways or unfurl more of the story in this game. If you remember earlier, there was that van sitting out in front of the gate. Well, that belonged to a team of ghost hunters called the Sewer Gators. And this tape was their recording of exploring this abandoned house in the bayou. And they're here to investigate the disappearance of the family that lived here. And I'll just say, this guy's no Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures, the greatest ghost hunter of all time, because immediately, this dude's producer goes missing. That would never happen to Zach.
Andre! Andre! Clancy, you see where Andre went?
Yeah, let's just fast forward that real quick. Long story short, they go and find a weird hole in the wall and they go through it and there's a ladder.
Weird hole
Down,
in the
oh my
wall.
god, guys,
Do it.
that's scary. And lives were lost. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the important thing to acknowledge here is that we learn this house used to belong to a family called the Bakers. Dude called them backward. I don't really know exactly what that means. Apparently they went missing 3 years ago, suspiciously around the same time Mia went missing. Oh, and it revealed the little trap door with the handle in the fireplace. Honestly, it's a pretty interesting way to show you how to move forward while also making you terrified to do so. On the wall, you can find a painting of the Baker family that they talked about. And looking at them, they seem pretty normal. It makes you wonder how any of this could have happened and why the hell they need a secret passageway in their wall. I know it's just a game and you're not supposed to question this kind of stuff, but what kind of Scooby...
It's because of their son. That is my theory. Is because their son fucking lives there and he just decided to build all this shit in the walls because he is the saw trap man. Can you go through, please? Can you go through, please? Oh, this is gonna be a nightmare. I forgot that sewing leather is a pain.
Do-ass villain you...
It's hard to stab, which is good when you're using it to prevent yourself from being stabbed and bad when you're trying to stab it.
to get one of these bitches built. Some random ass house in Louisiana and they built a labyrinth underneath it just for fun. I'll spoil it for you. It still doesn't make sense by the end. I still don't understand why they did this. We just gotta move on from it. And of course, it leads to a prison cell, because why not? They must have had Doofenshmirtz draw up the plans for this house. And this prison cell is locked shut with a chain, which means it's time to engage in one of Resident Evil's age-old gameplay loops, where you have to go around and find a way to open up this door. Something that took me hours playing the first Resident Evil games, just going around and trying to find the key. And oh boy, was it a tough one in this one. All I had to do was look to the left.
To the left?
And there it was, some bolt cutters. And you pull them over and you open it up. What a puzzle. What a puzzle, man. I was bewildered on that one. I didn't know where it was. On the wall around the bolt cutters, though, are different missing person pages, likely representing the people that have gone missing that we read about in the newspaper earlier. And there's a little booklet that has a list of all these people. And next to their names, it'll either say like turned or dead. Most of them say dead, but next to the cameraman, it says L. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm gonna assume he took one. Is that right? Hang on. No, I think... All right, whatever. This little booklet also means they're doing some experiments here. You know, this is almost like a fairy tale where you save a princess from a dragon, except in this case, princess is my wife, and the dragon is a dirty kitchen and hillbillies. But honestly, I'd rather fight a dragon than hillbillies. Hillbillies kind of freak me out.
Did anyone see you? Did he see you?
Hey, who else is here? What the hell's going on?
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
Daddy!
Daddy?
We need to go now.
It seems like Mia's got a couple of screws loose and weird spaghetti hair. And now she's gonna
Weird
lead us
spaghetti
even
hair.
deeper into the weird labyrinth under this house. If she wanted to get out, why would
I
we
might
not
give
just
up on
go
this.
back the way that we
Go to the
came?
easier
I
task.
mean, I know there's a broken ladder, but if this were anything like the other Resident Evil games, then one of them would just crouch down in front of the ladder and scream the other person's name until they got to throw him up. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. What I will say about this game is that the environmental storytelling is off the charts. I mean, just being able to discern the missing persons through newspapers and pages on the wall, as well as the disgusting environments. I mean, the person designing these environments must have had some bills due, because these look crazy good. Nothing is more crucial for effective horror than atmosphere, and these environments truly set the atmosphere from start to finish. But close runner-ups in horror necessities are scary dolls and loud noises off screen, and baby, we got them both.
Baby, we got them both.
And of course, when you go to chase after her, she's nowhere to be found, because why would she be? You know, why would it be that easy? You know, this gives us a chance to walk around, explore a couple things, find a healing item, which I think is really funny in this
They
game.
are so
Healing item
funny.
is just like a little bottle that you pour all over yourself and then you're good. I think this is only rivaled by the Far Cry healing animations, which are just absolutely insane. And oh boy, look at that. The phone is
So
ringing.
funny.
What could be more important? So you go and answer this random family's phone. Oh my God, it's a lady who knows everything that is going on and is going to tell us exactly where to
Great.
go. But before we can do any of that, oh my God, Mia is crazy again. Whoa, oh gosh.
Whoa,
Scary.
oh gosh,
Now, this
scary.
Like a switch has flipped within Mia, and she begins stabbing us like a rabid animal with a knife. And honestly, she looks terrifying. Before, I mentioned that this game uses old horror movies as a blueprint, and Mia is our first real taste of that. You see, in the Evil Dead remake from 2013, the main character, Mia, is brought out to a cabin in the woods where her friends help her detox off of drugs. But underneath the cabin in the basement is the goddamn Necronomicon, a book made of skin
Pepe.
with demonic texts inside. So naturally, they open it up and read it out loud, because why the fuck not, I guess? And in doing so, they release an ancient evil that possesses Mia. And then throughout the movie, Mia has a constant battle between her and this demon inside of her. And her friends suffer the consequences, never really knowing if they're talking to Mia or the demon. Now, I'm sure you can connect a couple dots here and see that Mia was ripped straight out of the Evil Dead remake and plopped down in here. Not only does she got the same first name, but she also does that thing
I
that
don't
kinda
know,
flips
maybe.
between normal Mia and scary Mia. When you copy someone's homework, you're not supposed to make it look too obvious. I don't think they got that memo. It could be argued either way, whether this is a tasteful tribute to the Evil Dead remake or a soulless copy-paste job. Personally, I like it. I think it's a good
God damn it.
homage to that movie, and only because Mia is not the central antagonist of the game. I think if the game was all about her, yeah, it'd be kind of shitty. But there's so much more to Resident Evil 7 that this very clear reference to Evil Dead does not feel cheap. And I think it helps that the developers went out of their way to state that the Evil Dead was a huge reference for this game. And if that wasn't made obvious enough with Mia's character, what happens next is about to make it real obvious. You see, in the original Evil Dead franchise, before the
God damn it, I'm all
specifically
tangled.
Evil Dead 2 in 1987, the main character, Ash, cuts off his hand with a chainsaw. That's one way to do nofap. And now here comes good old Mia, headed down the hallway with a chainsaw. Clearly meant to make us think that she's gonna cut off our hand. Oh my god! Go! Oh, now the difference here is Ash actually put the chainsaw on his hand and it's awesome. And Ethan Winters just put that bitch in his pocket and walked around stumping. See, Mia may be
Walked
taken care
around
of,
stumping.
but as soon as she goes down, a new threat appears.
Welcome to the family, son.
Okay, this is exhausting. I'm gonna do it later / never. I don't wanna. We're gonna make cats. I promise cats, and that'll take the whole fucking 10 years of my life. And there's crumbs all over. There's purple crumbs. It's kitty time.
Papa, we've mentioned it
Get in the
briefly, but
trash.
now
Get in the
is a
trash.
good time to talk about the Baker family and what really happened with Mia. Little lower down for you. So basically, Mia,
okay,
that
so we need
sweet,
a
beautiful
brain.
woman who could do no wrong, actually a super spy. And she was here doing super spy stuff.
Super
when she
spy.
disappeared 3 years ago, she told Ethan she was going off to do a babysitting job. Wow. She was actually on a big ship helping to transport this little girl named Evelyn by sea. Evelyn was like patient zero for this crazy bioweapon that they called the mold. Long story short, they were on the ship and it crashed. Now stick with me on this. Jack, Marguerite, Lucas, and Zoe Baker were all living happily, peacefully in their Louisiana home that for some reason has Scooby-Doo dress in. One swampy bayou day, Jack Baker finds Evelyn and Mia washed up on shore after that ship had crashed. And he, being the good Samaritan that he is, brought them into his home.
Let's get this poor girl some fresh clothes and into a warm bed. We'll put her in Lucas's old room.
The Bakers gave them a place to stay and took care of them. But remember, Evelyn is basically a bioweapon, and this mold she was infected with is contagious. Now, the mold affects people in stages. The first stage is increased regenerative abilities. The second is when the brain gets infected and the host starts to become mind-controlled by Evelyn. And the third is total cell replacement. Basically, their whole body gets replaced with mold and they get super strength and stuff. Now, the Baker family had no chance of understanding what they were being turned
I'm
into.
gonna flip
And
the face
as
of my
we are
kitty.
brought to the big family
Look at
house,
Luker.
apparently there's another house, we are shown exactly what they've become.
Look her face. You can't really see it very well.
Where am
'cause it's, you know, double screen, but whatever.
What the hell?
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
It's my kitty.
It's time for supper.
I wasn't
I'm trying to make her.
This sweet, caring family has become a twisted reflection of what they once were. And this dinner scene stands out to me most out of anything in the game just because of how disturbing it is. And it also stands out as one of the strongest references to classic horror. Specifically in this scenario, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Good darker lighting.
Just looking at the two scenes side by side, you can see that they are directly parallel. And beyond just the visual similarities, what I see here more as a parallel is a family that is living through a disgusting, terrible, horrific scenario and behaving as though it is completely normal. Behaving normally in wildly abnormal scenarios is peak horror. And both of these families behave as though it is just another family dinner. Now, I know that's a lot of references and shit to take in, but what's crazy is that's just the tip of the iceberg. The references to classic horror movies go even deeper, as each one of these little freaks at the table represents a core piece of horror history. Now, the intro was pretty cut and dry, with old spaghetti hair over here being the main
Spaghetti
focus for that portion, but the rest of the game is split up into different sections, and each one of these Baker family members is the focus or antagonist of that section. And the first one we focus on is Big Papa Jack Baker. Once the dinner scene goes a little wild, they try to make you eat some food, a hand gets cut off, blah, blah, blah. Everybody gets up and leaves conveniently, and you are given free roam to explore the house. Now, you can find some ammo, try out the couches, slap around Grandma a little bit, but after a short time,
Slap around grandma.
here's Johnny. Jack Baker chases you through this house, but walking, never running. Why? Because Jack
He's the
Baker and his
slasher.
section are the embodiment of the slasher film. Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, or The Shining, one of the most iconic slasher films ever made that stars a murderous father named Jack.
A little slow tonight, isn't it?
He's not running at you because that is rule number 1 of the slasher film. The scary murder guy always walks menacingly at you. He never runs, and somehow he always catches up to you anyway. The only way to escape from Jack is through this, hatch in the floor. I know Fred is walking around with that dumb fucking ascot around his neck somewhere. This is like peak Scooby-Doo shit. I seriously don't understand how this random bayou house has more hidden passageways than the damn Batcave, but it provides for a good exit, so whatever. After crawling around in the floorboards a little bit like a little worm guy, we make it to the second save room. And would you look at that? Another phone call just for me. Hello?
Hi, I'm looking for Hugh.
No, sorry, I think you have the wrong number.
No one named Hugh there?
Yeah, no, no one named Hugh here.
Last name Janus?
Sorry, don't know what to tell you. Never met a Hugh Jane.
You did good, Ethan.
Zoe, right? And what the fuck are they?
Shut up and listen if you want to stay alive. You gotta get out of that
Sleep,
house.
sleep, sleep,
You might
sleep,
be way out
sleep.
through the main hall.
All right.
Oh,
Sleep,
and
sleep,
that thing on
sleep,
your
sleep,
wrist is a
sleep,
codex.
sleep.
Don't lose it. It's important.
All right, 2 things. 1, that was Zoe Baker. I didn't mention her name before, but she is one of the Bakers. For some reason, she has remained sentient. I'm still not like fully clear on why. I'm sure there's a reason. I just it never clicked for me. She pretty much guides us
It's a
through
little
this whole
silly.
game over the phone. And 2, I don't know if you noticed yet, but Ethan's hand is like stapled back onto his body. And it's fine and like functional. I wonder what's going on there. I don't know. Maybe something. Maybe some shenanigans. Like a little bit of shenanigans. He got
Like a
mold.
little
He
bit of
gets- it's like a whole-
shenanigans.
Don't worry about it. Leaving the save room leads you right back out into the house. The game plan is to go up to this window, talk to this cop. Oh boy, he's gonna be helpful, and he's definitely not gonna die. Oh crap, who could have seen that coming? This triggers a boss fight with
did.
Jack Baker. And now, Jack is far too molded to just be shot in the head and killed. And so, with this boss fight, we gotta get a little creative. Hit him with a car.
Hit him with a car.
Now, this would normally kill any person, but if you think that's the end of Jack Baker, then you clearly don't know rule number 2 of slasher films. The killer always gets back up.
Do I have your attention, boy? You're about to see some wonderful.
So funny.
And shoots himself in the head, I guess. Whatever, he's out of the way now, which gives us the opportunity to get a funny medallion and put it on a door, because keys are for bitches. And with that, we're set free into the main house, the most classic of Resident Evil settings. For a little bit of context here, the first Resident Evil game takes place in a mansion that is extremely similar to this. Inside the mansion, there were few zombies compared to what later entries might have.
I'm trying to find like the good things to say about this game, but like, oh,
kind of hard to find. But each one of them was a stressful encounter to either kill or try and get around in the narrow hallways and with the weird, like, very hard to tell what's going on control schemes. The core gameplay loop of Resident Evil 1 was moving around the mansion, opening different doors, solving puzzles so that you could get keys and open other doors. It was basically just a big scary scavenger hunt. Now this mansion here in Resident Evil 7 is most definitely meant to reflect that, what with its various themed keys and puzzles, as well as a great homage with this shotgun in here. There was a shotgun on the wall in the original Resident Evil where if you picked it up, it would like undo a mechanism and you would get locked in, and so you had to find a broken shotgun and put it up there, and then you could leave.
Indiana
and so they put
Jones
that
ass
same
puzzle.
thing in Resident Evil 7, which I really like. But they did not put the dog hallway. That remains in Resident Evil 1 and in my nightmares.
In my nightmares.
Oh, fuck! No! 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 Why do bad things happen to me? I'm gonna be honest, I do love this game. I really, really do. But it almost seems to me like instead of writing this game outright, it was more like they just assembled a puzzle and all of the pieces were different media that they enjoyed. I think it works when you put it all together and you're experiencing it, but when you lay it out like this, it's a little iffy. Anyway, eventually Jack catches up because, like I told you, the killer's never dead, rule number 2. And see, in slasher movies, the scariest part is not when the person running gets caught, it's the chase. Oftentimes they spend half the movie being chased with the near misses or hiding just around the corner hoping he won't hear you. And this is something they get so incredible.
Oh, you finished squirrel with the gun? Or are you still playing it, I guess? Oh my god! Stripper squirrel!
Jack Baker. As we're exploring and looking for these keys that we need, Jack Baker is either right behind us or nowhere to be seen. The horror comes from the atmosphere set in this mansion. I mean, seriously, the environment designers and the people that scored this game knocked it out of the park. And 2, because we know we can't kill Jack Baker. We hit him with a car and he shot himself in the face. He's not gonna die. We can't face him head on, so we have to run. In that choice between fight or flight, one of those options has been removed. Flight is all we got. I've always said this when watching horror movies, like, you know, when they shoot the guy and then he gets up, I'm thinking, man, y'all just cut him up into like little pieces. Like, I'm talking little tiny cubes. What is he gonna do if he's cubes? Michael Myers not gonna come get you.
What's he gonna do if he's cubes?
And if he does, what is he gonna do? He's cubes. Are the little pieces gonna come rolling at you? That's stupid. The fucked up thing about Jack Baker is the little cubes will probably come rolling at you. And it will only be stupid until they form into a big moldy mass and eat you. After a little game of duck, duck, goose that seems to have gotten out of hand, we get a brief moment away from Jack Baker where we go down into the basement slash morgue slash why is any of this here? And honestly, this is one of the weakest points in Resident Evil 7. Wandering through these terrifyingly claustrophobic halls, we are faced with dark, lumbering creatures. These are called the Molded. And they suck.
And they suck!
I mean, they can hurt you, but at the end of the day, you kind of just go around them. It was hard to go around zombies in the first Resident Evil because, I mean, the hallways were a little tighter and the camera angles and controls made it impossible. But in this game, you can move around pretty easily. And, I mean, the mud guys just look kind of stupid. They're just like little mud boys. It may have been scary if they just put one beefy one down here that chased you all around through the basement. Kind of like Ustanok from Resident Evil 6, the greatest character in all of fiction. Look at him! But they're copied and pasted all throughout this basement, and they're really just cookie-cutter bullet sponges meant to make, I don't know,
6 hours, dang. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's good parts, bad parts.
Slightly inconvenience you. Clearly the Bakers were the stars of the show here, and these little things were just plopped in here to give you something to fight. Thankfully they're not that hard to kill, but I find them to be an annoyance more than anything. Now our little section with Jack Baker comes to a head in this creepy looking murder dungeon, where he continues to eat our bullets like they're nothing. There's no way we stand a chance against this guy. That is until he opens up a little fence and we get a chainsaw. This is the cut him up into little pieces moment that I've been waiting for my entire life. This boss fight works a little strange mechanically, but his maniacal laughing and insane chainsaw scissors keep the tension pretty high. To cement the Evil Dead references even further, while you're fighting Jack, you can hear him yell out, "Groovy." This is they did that in Evil Dead. The fight is intense, but eventually he pops like a balloon, and that concludes our time with Jack Baker. Sadly, you need to break the chainsaw to get out of here. I would have loved an opportunity to go full Ash on him, but this does mean that we can move on now to Marguerite Baker. Now, it's hard to pin down a genre for Marguerite Baker, but the professional conclusion I've come to is weird, gross bug shit. He was slashers, she's
girl is body horror.
The design was inspired by...
Do you know what body horror is? No. Beach. It's body horror. It's creature feature. It is a genre. He doesn't know the genre, but I know the genre. Let's see if I have
a movie called The Brood, which I would also classify as weird, gross bug shit, and it definitely works in this context. Apparently Marguerite, as her infection was spreading, gained a connection with all the little bugs out in the bayou, and it gave...
Where are my fucking eyeballs? going somewhere.
Her the ability to control them and leave all these like weird gross hives everywhere. Marguerite kind of does the same thing that Jack does, where she'll menacingly walk around, but when she gets close to you, she'll just like swarm you with bugs. It's similar, but it definitely doesn't hit the same. I'd say of the three, her section is my least favorite, and that is not helped by her insane boss fight. She chases you to this weird outbuilding where you'll never guess. You get swarmed by a bunch of bugs, and she chases you around there with her weird, spindly little arms. Her body's contorted into some kind of spider.
Body horror!
Some big weird hive on her lady parts. The boss fight with Jack was at least like this cool action set piece with a chainsaw. In this one, you just like kick Marguerite in the cooter until she turns to stone and then disintegrates. I'm not gonna spend any more time talking about her section because frankly, I find it pretty dull, especially when compared to the next section with Lucas. The son, the guy who got his hand cut off. We're like Nub Brothers. Lucas is a huge
like Nub Brothers.
When we first encounter him, he's got these lights leading us upward. Glowing paint guides our path. And a TV left with a message for us.
Or that's better.
See, at this point in the game, we're looking for a set of ingredients that can be used to make a cure for Zoe and Mia. And as it turns out, Lucas has them. And he'll give them to us. But in return, he wants to play a game. The walls are lined with plastic. Bombs are placed along our path. Lucas has handcrafted this path through the mansion. And as you walk it, he's taunting you, torturing. And if you haven't picked up on the genre that Lucas is based on, I want to tell you about a little movie called Saw.
You want to play a little game?
Now, unlike a traditional slasher movie, Saw does not feature a killer hunting down victims like prey. No, instead the killer places his victims in a highly controlled environment where he orchestrates a series of games that these unwilling...
You want to play a game?
I'm gonna be honest, those movies are pretty gross and I can't really watch them anymore. One time I got really high and someone put on a Saw movie and it freaked me out. But I think it's a cool concept and it's played out pretty well here. See, Lucas embodies this torture horror and it is reflected in our first boss fight with Lucas, where we don't actually fight Lucas. Instead, we're led down a path to this mutilated monster and forced to fight it, while Lucas, over the intercom, acts as a twisted moderator.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the bonfire!
Shoutcasting the entire fight, the lights, the speakers, and this is just the beginning. Upon our path, Lucas has left a corpse, and with it is the code for the door that he wants us to walk through next. And as soon as we do, he's right there to shut it behind us. And now, we are trapped in this room that he has built for us. It might as well be ripped straight from a Saw movie. Our objective is to light a candle and put it on a cake. Pretty simple. Only it's not simple. In fact, it is a very convoluted set of puzzles that was slightly infuriating, but overall very stimulating. Really though, unlike a Saw puzzle, the game is completely rigged here, and no matter what you do, you will always end up being the loser. That's a reference to It. It's a clown that carves loser into your arm, and it's they say that in the movie. It's It. You seen It? It's a movie called It. There's a clown. He says loser. It's like a whole thing. The only way to actually overcome this puzzle is to outsmart Lucas, or be bomb-proof, I guess. Lucas is an exceptionally well done depiction of this kind of horror. The entire time that he is around, he remains in control. And the second that we gain the upper hand, dude is gone like the wind. This deep into a game, after we've gone up against such wacky enemies, Lucas gives the player a sense of powerlessness that is really crucial to keeping the horror alive. Nothing about Marguerite was that scary. In fact, it was just kind of gross. But Lucas truly takes all control away from the player and keeps you guessing what's going to happen next, which is very, very good for late stages in the game. And that's all the bakers. With Lucas in the wind, we can finally take a breath and save our wife. Sack, bitch, what did I tell you? Rule number 2, the slasher never dies.
The slasher never dies!
He just looked like a raisin. This fight,
he just looked like a raisin.
is, in my opinion, completely unnecessary, but to be fair, personally, I really hate those boss fights where it's just a big guy and they have big eyes and you gotta shoot the eyes. I think Dead Space 3 kind of just ruined that for me. But they're playing by slasher rules, baby, so he's gotta come back. This boss fight is less about him and more about the implications of killing him. You see, the only way to kill Jack Baker is to cure him. And the problem is, we only have 2 cures. So after we kill him, we have to go back to Mia and Zoe and make a choice. And it's such a hard decision, so heart-wrenching. On the one hand, we've got
so weird.
You know, your loving wife who's been missing for 3 years and you came all the way here to find her. And on the other hand, there's the girl who was on the phone. Yeah, you pick Mia. That's the canon ending, is you pick Mia. Why would you pick Zoe? I'm not really sure. Honestly, if you do pick Zoe, she just dies anyway. There's no reason
so
to pick
lame.
Zoe. This is such a stupid choice. Whatever. You save Mia, you stab her. Zoe gets mad, whatever. Fuck you.
I think the game is
This
just
is
inspired by a
literally
lot
my
of
life.
stuff.
Why would I do anything different? You get on the boat with Mia, you ride off into the sunset just like Resident Evil 4, but except this time, it's not over. Before we can get away, we're faced with the final enemy of this game. The one who started it all. Now, I know I told you about the Mia being a secret agent and all the history with the Bakers and stuff like that early on in the video, but it's actually here at this section of the game where they lore dump all of that stuff on you. Personally, I thought it was better to just tell you up front because it makes things a little less confusing. And I think knowing that the Bakers were initially this beautiful, loving, caring family and had been tragically warped into these nasty things makes them like even scary. I think it's stupid that they just don't tell you what's going on and then trauma dump everything on you at the end. But one thing I think was worth holding on to until the end here was the little more backstory we get on Evelyn. Evelyn was just a little girl who wanted a family. And
Yeah, it doesn't
Mia
change
and
anything
this other
though.
dude were kind of acting
It
as her
literally
fake
just
family, but she wanted a real
kills her
one.
later.
So
I'm looking at photo of my kitty. In case you're wondering. So she kind of has 2 like lines going down this way on her face. That's the wrong one.
she infected the Bakers and made them her family. All she needed was, I think they said it was like she needed a dad. I don't understand why Jack Baker wasn't her dad, but I don't think I'm getting the full picture. Either way, she is the reason that Ethan was summoned out here. He was gonna be her papa. While they're on the ship, Ethan gets trapped in the mold, and then he gets a bunch of visions from like Jack. Seriously, I'm telling you, Slasher never dies. He came back in a dream. It kind of counts. Where all the Bakers represented different kinds of horror, I believe Evelyn represents psychological horror. She takes over your mind so that you can never trust anything that you see or hear. That's terrifying. Countless films use this kind of horror, and that's because it is a kind of horror that really sticks with you. Each of the Bakers was violent in some way, and violence, while scary, is a means to an end. There's like an anticipated outcome. And for your mind to be warped so that you can't trust anything that you see, slowly losing yourself, that is far scarier than anything physical. Walking again through the Baker's house, we're shown things, we hear things that cannot possibly be there. Evelyn is in Ethan's head, and there's only one way to get her out. And guess what? She's old. Oh my God, that was Evelyn the whole time. The grandma was Evelyn. Holy smokes, I knew there was some shenanigans.
Spoilers for the game, by the way.
And get all scary like Monster House. This is just like Monster House. Evelyn has been right in front of us the entire time, around every corner, and yet we did nothing. I mean, I did try to shoot her a couple times, but that's just because I'm a bad person.
It's
There's
just
crazy
because I'm a
boss
bad
fight with her.
person.
It gets a little wild. She gets big. You start to shoot the bulbs. It's awesome, but it wouldn't be Resident Evil if someone didn't throw you a weapon right at the end for you to take the final shot. I think the question here is, does this work? Does all of this work together? My answer? Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, like, it's pretty good, but I mean, I don't know, some parts kind of sucked. It was pretty good. Yeah. The amount of references to other horror media here is kind of insane, and it makes me wonder if I like the game itself or if I just liked all the things that it was referencing. Some people might consider that cheap, but I would argue that the best media out there is just someone grabbing all the things that they like and mashing them together and putting their own sauce on it. Yeah, sure, this game is kind of just a copy-paste of a bunch of other horror media, but the key here is that it has the sauce. I had a good time, and I think really that's all that matters to me. And honestly, I love that it brought Resident Evil back to its roots. While I had fun with Resident Evil 6, it was one of the most hilariously awful games I've ever played, and it was only fun because it was bad. This is a genuinely fun game. Anyway, game good, video over. Click the card right here, watch another thing. Do like the like and subscribe stuff. Do all that. That would be great. YouTube thinks you'll like this one. Are they right? Let's find out. Click it.
Makes good videos.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Plants vs. Zombies series has remained.
Okay, we're moving right along. This is Chupo. He makes deep lore dives of children's media, basically, and I've been extremely entertained by him for the past few weeks. And I used to play Plants vs. Zombies as a kid. My family had a copy and we all played it, and it's a good game and lore time.
Iconic and beloved for years.
For PvZ.
Throughout that time, though, there has been pieces of a puzzle that, when all connected, create a story that is unbelievable as it is absurd. So join me as I go over everything I could find in this world. Hi everybody, I'm here at the farmer's market. If there's anything I love more than buying things here, it's not doing that. I love me some free samples. Just gotta be careful with some of this stuff. I don't want to get any allergic reaction to tree nuts or anything. So I've actually talked about Plants vs. Zombies before, when I rambled about how I could eat all the plants. But the story also has a good amount of stuff going on. Plants vs. Zombies takes place most prominently in this location called Neighborville on a version of Earth. Neighborville for sure is on the west coast of North America and at minimum does have some stuff in Vancouver. The biggest challenge in this story is how unhinged everything is. Characters will act purely on instinct, and needless to say, there's points where I need to take a step back and wonder if my younger self would be proud or disappointed when we get to this point. Today's story begins like all stories do. The dawn of time. The in-universe government provides a brief rundown of the history of zombies in this universe. It takes exactly 30 minutes for the first zombie to just like pop into existence. Okay then. Just like everything, it just shows up out of nowhere. Now the zombies aren't like ordinary zombies in this case. They're more like an equivalent to humans that can be born and come from the undead. They aren't like a virus hellbent on spreading more like World War Z or something. They're very stupid humans who want to eat brains to get smarter. That's pretty low on the zombie scale. This version of history is basically the same as ours, but not really. We actually do know some important moments in history that revolved around zombies. When Greek engineers invented the catapult in 431 BC, the zombies stole it to launch themselves closer to brains. In 160 BC, Dedus Zombius took over the Roman Empire by eating all of those who opposed him. In 1492 AD, the Pope survived zombies by hiding in a cupboard for a week. In 843 AD, a zombie accidentally became the king of Germany when he worn the crown when he was bored. One time in 1687, the zombies realized sounds like R, and that's when they became pirates, only to change their minds after a year because they all got seasick. In the most recent centuries, zombies mellowed out a bit, finally chilling out, especially in 1921, when they all decided to work in a whoopee cushion factory. I should note the perfect thing to counter zombies in this story were the Vikings because of their metal helmets. Then one day in 1968, this company called Bloom and Doom Seed Co. was founded by Barbara Johns, who doesn't really matter. This is hardly acknowledged, but this is a company where all the plants get mass-produced based on hints we've been given, but who's responsible for that? This is Christopher David Blazing III, better known as Crazy Dave. He's a funny little freak who's allegedly 36 years old. Just for future reference, I'm gonna assume the time points are the respective release dates of each game. But why is Crazy Dave crazy, you might be asking? Well, we don't know. If I were to guess,
he
it's
just
either
is.
his experiments and his big old brain making him so unhinged, or he got some wacky wild tapeworms from eating food off the ground that's established to be a bad habit of his. One day, somewhere between 30 minutes after the dawn of time and May 4th, 2009, Crazy Dave invented the first ever of these plants, a little pea shooter. He did this for a science fair, winning it, and as a result made a new lifelong nemesis. Now this is Dr. Zomboss, the commander of the modern zombies. He's also the creator of zombies throughout the franchise after losing to Davy's little science expedition. His entire life path transitions to wanting a worldwide apocalypse because of this specific instance. After 2 years of studying death and stuff, he quickly acquired a doctorate in Thantology. That's the study of dying and stuff. And being freaking peeved from that one science fair, probably decades ago at this point, Zomboss figures out how to bring back the dead, thus allowing him to create an uprising. And if you're wondering how or why Zomboss is the only zombie who made the rest of the zombies and why there's not any other ones, we'll get into that, don't you worry. May 5th, 2009, Zomboss says, alright, shit's about to get bananas. I want this guy gone and everyone dead, except for the dead guys. The dead guys are my guys, they can stay. It's a zombie apocalypse. All our lawns are getting invaded and whatnot until Dave pops in and goes, ah, don't worry, Chief. That guy kind of sucks at existing. His forehead looks like a cheap stress ball. Here, take my seed. No, not that other kind. Now, of course, Crazy Dave is established to be a little bit cray-cray. He makes you spend a lot of money on survival equipment despite the apocalypse. His plans are outlandish a lot of the time, but trust me, amigo, he's a chaotic good friend. This is the face of a friend. Take his little seeds, bing bong, now we got an army. Following this, for the next several days, we're at the mercy of Dave's missions and what he offers to us, what he sells, what plans we get, and rather than go to any part of the world to be zombies, Zomboss is hellbent on ending exclusively Dave's neighbor and wastes his entire army attempting to do so. At the end, Zomboss is about to attack himself. Dave's gonna tell us the weakness. Oh, never mind, he's being held hostage now. Antics ensue, and Zomboss loses to Cabbages. They have a temporary treaty and a dance party ending. I don't know if that's copyrighted. I'm not gonna risk it. We have saved the world, but what if I told you during this entire invasion, there was another major event going on? See, not a lot of people know this, but there's actually a collection of graphic novels, each with their own Plants vs. Zombies story.
Make a tail and ears.
The first arc takes place
Hello.
in the initial Naperville outbreak, so it's also on May 5th, 2009. All of Naperville's at the mercy of the invasion. Everyone's sad and scared, especially two kids. There's one named Nate, he likes food and not dying, and then there's Blazing, the niece of Crazy Dave, thus increasing the size of the Crazy Dave family tree. In case you're wondering, yes, Dave's the cool uncle. I mean, look at him. Now, funnily enough, this is the only time when Crazy Dave actually speaks proper English words that everybody understands, but this is gonna get retconned. Based on the format of the story, namely how he disappears for several extended periods, I'm gonna assume that Dave is going back and forth between his niece and neighbor in both of these events to help both groups out with his weaponized flora. This portion of the story ends with Zomboss being defeated before the first game. Then Dave runs back to the house and gets kidnapped, but long story short, now these kids and Zomboss are super duper enemies forever, and this will never change. Now,
I had guessed that you were napping.
Time Apocalypse has to play out before PvZ 2. Not only does Zomboss create a time machine, but so does Crazy Dave. Most of this tale exists to perfectly counteract Zomboss's plans with Crazy Dave's plan. Plants, Egypt, dinosaurs, prehistoric plants, pirates, specifically this one named Captain Chestbeard, who's kind of important. He can time travel too also. The three most important things of note here is that Crazy Dave is a fantastic disco doer. He's schmovin', the good guy gang makes a sun modifier, thus Zomboss loses and gets punched in the pancreas, and weirdly enough, in this series, if a character time travels to an era where they are alive, they will age to whatever age they are in that time. For example, Nate and Patrice both become adults when they teleport to the 2020s. By the way, the zombies win in the 2020s. Zomboss takes over in the year 2020. The fact that there's even a chance Zomboss used that one thing 2020 is known for, that's in character. I guess he would use plagues. Following this, it's probably August 15th, 2013. PvZ 2 time. Wait, never mind. May 20th, 2013. Facebook PvZ game. It's traditional tower offense. Nobody cares. Okay, now it's August 15th, 2013, and PvZ 2 time for realsies. There's been several years worth of a time skip, but luckily we know that during all of that time, all Zomboss has been doing is trying to get the players and Dave's brain during all of it. He's doing all this in the middle of the day. Zomboss, all it takes is one act of foul play to burn down their homes. You know, for a guy with a brain larger than Lake Ontario, you sure are a dummy little dumbass. On this day,
dummy little dumbass.
Drops some hot sauce. Crazy Dave then uses it on his taco, and I'm not joking. This taco is so good that he takes his magical flying time traveling recreational vehicle exclusively meant to time travel to go back a few minutes for that taco. I don't know how that would work. I feel like you would just be like stealing the taco from yourself. And fellas, this taco doomed all of history. By time traveling like this, Crazy Dave has not only fibbed up the space-time continuum, but Zomboss is using his didgeridoo Davy detector and also time travels with the zombies and sprinkles them throughout history. Because time travel is time travel and two separate parties are time traveling, that means Zomboss most likely went to 30 minutes after the dawn of time and left some zombs there. Therefore, everything up to this point and everything after is over a taco. I can't believe this is real. I guess what I'm trying to say is taco, time travel, zombies get made, time travel, sprinkle back, paradox. Oh yeah, I'm guessing this also means Zomboss created his ancestors if he made the initial army, and then they actually became his ancestors when doing the time travel stuff, meaning that he's technically creating himself, I guess? Unlike every other zombie, he actually grows up, and the undead don't typically do that. Before the 21st century, he probably would have been considered a demon child, but luckily for him, modern times are more accepting. In fact, he's still basically just a human, but with bad dental, a weird skin condition, and an obsession with eating brains. So what's that about? Long story short, if I were to guess, one of his parents were freaky, and the other parent was freaky. Ew! Time for a time travel battle. Back to the modern day, the traditional PvZ antics play out until Zomboss drops a taco. This time it has a waffle on it. This satisfies Crazy Dave's need to get another taco, and the universe has been saved once again as both threats to the space-time continuum have been neutralized thanks to some epic Mexican cuisine with maple syrup on top. China. Depending on where you ask, Plants vs. Zombies is different, especially in China. They got their own versions of the games, extra content, extra levels, extra plants, some even being crossovers. Apparently it's buggy though. The last time I talked about this series, but a lot of people got mad at me over that. I wouldn't know. I'm not from China. So, sorry. This version even got some crossovers, like this one with Subway Surfers. Get out of here! I don't like you. You're not my friend. You're gross, you're weird, you're ugly, you're smelly, and you wear a hat. Alright? You're not welcome here? Go away! Evil Dave. This is Dave's evil brother, who is here exclusively to make fun of Crazy Dave. I know a little Chinese, but I'm not gonna attempt translating his iconic catchphrases. This is like if a third Mario brother existed, but only for Irish copies of Mario games. Now, I would argue both sides are morally gray at this point. Zomboss is not only petty, but also jealous and ruining all of history over a science fair. Crazy Dave is the smartest idiot around, and everybody knows that's usually not a good thing. They are both entities of instinct, and I think the rest of the comics and games help to illustrate their respective insanities. Take, for example, the college revenge arc. Zomboss went to zombie college, and he was a dick. He was tying spiders to people's shoes, he was feeding folks to moon sharks, and he was ableist. Not a good dude. The climax of this includes him stealing a thesis from another educated zombie. He's awful. Important to note, college grad zombies can talk. For example, when his bullies return to bully, they can speak proper English. In their revenge, they intend to revoke his Scientology doctorate and take over Naperville instead of him. And that is bad, and they all knock it off. Meanwhile, the police have taped off Crazy Dave as he attempts to finish ice cream before it melts. He fails. So he makes flame-resistant ice cream. That is what he's doing. In Grown's sweet home, the plants are sleepy from Crazy Dave's antics, so they move out and try living alone. So the humans teach the plants how to be functioning adults, and Zomboss, remembering his college days, remembers how to plagiarize by planting cameras in their home, and starts teaching zombies how to human as well. I guess Nate and Patrice don't have parents. They live with plants for the next several weeks. Eventually, both parties are able to successfully blend in, but the plants learn a little bit better, so when they meet up with Zomboss, they run away, but Zomboss goes, "No, we're better." So they have a human off and take a break at 5 o'clock. Meanwhile, Crazy Dave is making spaghetti. He fails. Working overtime, the children sneak in the zombie base for the next day. There's a parade battle, but since Dave loves parades, they win. And I'm not kidding, this conflict ends when the kids out a few zombies for eating Zomboss's Pop-Tarts, so he has everybody else jump him. And this is when Dr. Zomboss really kicks it into high gear with the absolute peak of his wrath. From February 25th, 2014 to at least February 23rd, 2016, there will be the legendary saga of Garden Warfare. The time of walking to the plants slowly has ended, my friends. This is war!
This is war!
The will survive! Dr. Zomboss recruits some of his top soldiers to lead his armada to victory, while Crazy Dave modifies some of his plants to be even larger and more powerful. In the first game, it's pure Armageddon. Crazy Dave commands his team.
I never played this one, but my brother did.
While Zomboss builds larger mechs and forts. This is a genuine war with attempted assassinations and tactical nukes. Later on, when the plants start losing and Naperville is looking more like Zomtown, as Zomboss manages to build numerous deathly bases, the Leaf branch of the military, that's cute, asks one plant to come out of retirement. And so, the Corn Man has to get his shit together and join the fight. But but I don't know why
Oh,
he
wait,
has
that was the
pores.
wrong
This
side.
is upsetting. The comic that goes over this event provides more story. Nate and Patrice come from the future to truly end the fight. This is making the taco situation more confusing. On the contrary, though, Zomboss is using time portals to bring in more zombies through all of history. All the other citizens are invited to an ice cream cruise ship, so that explains why Dave's the only human in, like, the Garden Warfare franchise right now. There are two other plants, Rose and Citron, who have their origins revealed. Rose simply came from the past, there's not much to add there, but in the future, a little citrus volunteered for Crazy Dave's Super Soldier project, but Crazy Dave accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction. Cologne. Thus, Citron was born, and he looks like that. Please stop looking at me like that. Lots of fighting, lots of antics, lots of duels. It's super cool and intense. After hours of intense fighting, the plants are victorious. And what is Dave up to? Well, he's using frogs to close the zombie time portals. Okay. Also, gnomes. There's gnomes now. They hate both sides, and they even came from an alternate dimension. You know what that means. PVZ is part of a multiverse. Are you even surprised anymore? Like, genuinely. Every time. It's a multiverse. October 18th, 2016. PVZ Heroes. Somehow Crazy Dave and Zomboss both agreed on temporarily being giant, scary floating arms, and Zomboss uses a machine
what?
5,000 to turn a bunch of regular zombies into heroes. This misfires and creates the green shadow. I don't feel comfortable around pea shooters. Never have, never will. Yeah, this is not helping. With that, the plants get a whole army of heroes, and you get the idea from here. It's just plants go to place, breaking the legs and vital organs of each and every zom they come across. This is actually pretty easy to understand. September 4th, 2019. Battle for Neighborville. War be happening again. In between wars, Crazy Dave has been recognized as a worldwide savior. Despite all the trials and tribulations he's endured, he's saved the world a countless amount of times. He's such an icon, he's a costume in Little Big Planet 3. So, I mean, basically the next George Washington. So now he has a mansion. That's why he has a mansion. Now, story-wise, this is very much like the other games. It's more so a collection of larger battles with top soldiers on both sides working to take down the other. Based on previous hints, we can also confirm that the plants most likely won the previous warfares,
Still Thanksgiving.
Until that doesn't happen, and now violence. But again, the gnomes are back. The evil plans revolving around the moon are back. Honestly, it's very formulaic. Zomboss keeps goofing his gunk up. All it would take is some weed killer to stop the plants. All it would take to beat the zombies, it's some violence. Dr. Zomboss is a net negative for society. I'm shocked he's still alive. The remainder of the comics helps show more of the characters and some of the problems they have. From this point on, the cycle starts to advance and kind of just become repetitive, each issue going from major arcs to one-off stories. The remaining portion of the comic can go virtually anywhere post Garden Warfare 2, and it still makes sense. The next issue is Pedal to the Metal. Cars. Nate challenges Zomboss to a race war, but since all the plants were busy racing the zombies, the other ones take over. Humans win when Zomboss slips on a banana peel. Then the kids throw a pizza party. They do this a lot. Also, all Crazy Dave was doing was being the designated driver and playing a game called Don't Blink. This is humanity's savior. Next is Boom Boom Mushroom. The zombies want to make a cavern base and sink Neighborville by hitting all so everything collapses.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, this is not going to be an issue because
He did a coverage of Subway Surfers as well.
Crazy Dave, off-screen, won a pet pig named Twister from a singing competition in Guatemala and went on legendary quests through the land finding the Boom Boom Mushroom.
So mad.
And they all want it. So using Twister's pig smell, they find the bomb and make a trap that ends with Zomboss being trampled by bulls. In Battle Extravaganza, there's a guy who turned red from eating too much of his beet bread, and now he's red. That rhymes. I'm gonna get a water real quick. Now he's red, and he wants to sell his factory. Both parties want it. This is where I remind you, Crazy Dave has proven to be one of the most important people in the world, with connections to real-world governments, and Zomboss has proved to be a threat. Realistically, the government owes Dave this factory. We are officially at the point where this is basically a cartoon with burnout, and they just throw up ideas. Zomboss does some human trafficking for a zombie circus, enforces a famine. Worst of all, he joins a book club that he's actually passionate about, and then freaking Davey shows up and ruins it, so now both sides are trying to get more people in their book club. That's the plot of this one. Truthfully, especially later on, these stories become more one-off-ish and don't amount to that much. It's mostly treated like a weekly scheduled event at this point. There's nothing wrong with that, I just wasn't expecting it. Their relationship relationships have all stagnated to a tragic level of repetition where everyone just does enough to enjoy their lives and not think about what exactly they're doing with themselves. This is the game equivalent of Phineas and Ferb. Zomboss and Doofenshmirtz even have the same voice actor. I think this is especially the point where I reflected upon everything that came before, like an insane genius and a petty dead man doomed all of history with their mere existence. In the PvZ world, these two have forced all of time to endure a hellscape of zombies roaming through history. And for what? A taco? A science fair? The fact that out of billions of years, zombies have literally not only been a threat for all but 30 minutes across all that time, just because of this stuff is a little bit funny. The taco better have cured AIDS, and that science fair prize better have made, like, the 119th element. Because even if that stuff was the case, they would only, like, balance out the consequences they caused by, like, 2%? Anyways, war's done. I would argue this is one of those wars where nobody exactly won, but everyone definitely lost. Especially the gnomes, they super lost. They're out of the story now. The zombies have basically retreated to their norm in Neighborville, and though all the land has been regained, we have to rebuild. And that pretty gracefully slides into the time point of January 17th, 2024. Plants vs. Zombies 3, a proper and prepared and beautiful continuation into the classic gameplay with a new coat of paint that includes plants that don't make me want to say my safe word as much. So get this, Dr. Zomboss remembering every single one of his endless amount of defeats, remembering all those years he's tried and failed that's amounted to nothing, all those horrible atrocities that have wasted everyone's time, after spending an extended period thinking about his life, his actions, his consequences, all of the failures that led to this very moment, he decides to do the unthinkable. It's time to invade Neighborville again. Oh, what? You thought there was gonna be more? No, it's just Plants vs. Zombies. The plants are good, the zombies are bad. I see this more as both sides are running low on materials after a decade of Xbox Live profile pic material. I can see their mitochondria. That's how high definition they are. But, yeah, that's my justification for the events going on here. There's not many accessible plants or zombies and stuff. So now, we're right back at the start. One Nimrod forcing another into an endless battle with no outcome or change, with the same stuff, in the same place, repeating over and over with their own little twists at it each time. PvZ's story is the definition of insanity, which fits these two perfectly. Why does anyone live in Neighborville, by the way? A single gun could be the game changer. I'm shocked the zombies have lasted this long. Crazy Dave has military connections. He's simply choosing to prolong this. I see it on those eyes. They look like mine, actually. As Crazy Dave would always say, gargle, flarb, flarb, and really, that's how I would best describe this tale. Random, but consistent. Just like this franchise, and just like these characters. Well, that's all, folks. I came up with a funny idea today, but here's the deal. If you guys fix this statistic and subscribe and gunk and or share and do all that stuff, I'm sharing right now. Song "Zombie on Your Lawn." This isn't a bit. I really want an excuse to sing poorly.
He's a good video. He's a good video. Oh wait, you're here. You're awake now. So this is a channel you might have heard of. It's called Mother's Basement. They do anime reviews, and this is Paboom's favorite anime, or one of them, I don't know. Look, it's your anime girls. You happy?
Don't you worry, folks. He is absolutely fine. Those puffs of red weren't blood at all, but merely the rubber bullets that she shot him with, disintegrating on impact with his skin and bones. Right after plowing through a steel car door, which, yeah, that sure is, wow, okay, cool.
Like, gotta go!
It's anime. You think that's dumb? You should see how anime does golf. Now, what would be real dumb is if YouTube demonetized this video for violence in spite of that fact. Hence why I'm choosing to explain it now, right at the start, because clearly I was not diligent enough in my adherence to the community guidelines when I merely pixelated the entire screen whilst talking about certain kinds of scenes in my recent Hottest Trash video. So, since I obviously...
My favorite videos are the Hottest Trash videos. We'll watch one next.
...had no choice but to cold open on a cool gunshot montage just now, I just want to be extra thorough and make sure that any YouTube employees who might be watching are aware that no cartoon characters were harmed or f***ed in the making of this delicious, nutritious content.
So there were also rubber bullets in the machine gun?
Sure. Totally.
Totally.
Are the YouTube employees gone yet? Look, Lycoris Recoil is not an anime that you watch because you want to think about stuff. That's not to say it won't give you stuff to think about.
First gay parents in
actually
anime.
quite sharply written, with well-defined dynamic characters, a well-built, nuanced world of espionage and intrigue, and a twisty-turny plot that twists around a few very interesting and well-explored core themes. But at the end of the day, all of that is always gonna come second to
glorious anime violence
and the basic idea behind this show is as old as Reese's Cups. Take two things that are extremely fun and marketable and combine them into one thing that is hopefully even more extremely fun and marketable. But that's easier said than done. You can't just slather any old chocolate bar in any old peanut butter and call it a day. You need to find chocolate and peanut butter that taste good together and shape the chocolate to hold the peanut butter. Find a way to combine the disparate ingredients into a single, seamless whole. And when the narrative ingredients you're working with are as disparate as
John Wick
and you have really got your work cut out.
The editing on this video is really good. Yeah, I think American animation has definitely stepped up, and I think like a lot of it is some of the people currently working in American animation watched anime growing up and so use some of the principles of anime in their own shows, and that makes it good. Yeah.
So, if utterly defying the laws of physics and basic common sense to create armor-piercing non-lethals is what it takes to let a girl as impossibly sweet and wholesome as Chisato Nishikigi mow down anime goons like Keanu 10 minutes after re-downloading Pet Finder without fundamentally compromising her pure-hearted moe blobbability, I say so be it. Not that I feel particularly brave for saying it. I imagine that after all the footage you've just been drooling at, pretty much everyone watching this video agrees with that sentiment. Even those of you who aren't, by nature, anime or moe fans. Hell, even Hideo Kojima openly loves Lycoris Recoil, and he's a military hardware buff who famously points and laughs at otaku. Not to mention, he only watched it by accident while trying to stream the 2021 Paul Thomas Anderson film Licorice Pizza. Lycoris Recoil is just one of those anime that you can't look away from once it has your attention. Its qualities simply speak for themselves as confidently and succinctly as a pistol's rapport. So, if nobody watching this actually needs me to tell them what makes this anime good, why am I even here? Simple. To explain what will make this show an all-time great. Lycoris Recoil kicks ass, takes names, also takes cutesy breaks for snacks and video games and wholesome, genuinely original for once underwear jokes, and makes every second of it look impossibly easy. But beneath its cute, carefree smile lies a cautious and calculating creative mind. Every apparently effortless step it takes as it dances around the potentially fatal contradictions of its cutesy killer premise is plotted and executed with pinpoint precision to keep you right where it wants you, on the exact edge of your seat. That said, as cool as all the stuff I've shown you has been so far, and as much as I would love to keep talking about guns and explosions, those of you who clicked on this video to find out what the hiffle this anime even is would probably like to know what it's actually, you know, about. I mean, besides... and... So cute. Here we go, right after this ad.
All right, girls, time for your next mission. Oh boy, I love shooting terrorists. Me too, but today I need you to kill a bloke over in Akiba. Nice and quiet, no witnesses.
But boss, I don't...
Oh no, Chisato.
And normally I'd never ask this, but that son of a bitch snatched up the last pre-order for the Vampire Hunter D Elite exclusive statue from Figurama Collectors. Now the only way to get one is by killing him and stealing his identity. Toy? You're seriously asking Chisato?
Hold up, Takina. I'll do it.
Nani?
This is more than just a toy, Takina. Figurama Collectors make some
of the
most
I can't, I'm sorry.
If you want the D,
silly.
sign up to get notified at the link below today. In the nearish future...
Fine, I watched it because I thought you would want to watch it. We can move on. We'll move on. We'll move on. Let's watch about the hottest trash instead. Oh, warning for possible not safe for work.
Chez Garbage, where we
Chez
serve
Garbage!
only the finest trash
Chez Garbage is my favorite restaurant.
each seasonal crop has to offer. I'm Jeff. I'll be your waiter for the evening, and
Thank you,
let me tell
Jeff.
folks, you picked a great night to come in. The chefs in back just
I'm
got done
excited.
cooking up 2 of the most pungent piles of anime trash I've ever laid nose on, and the appetizers are nothing to sneeze at neither.
Nobody look at me. I haven't actually watched it, but I did read the manga.
It might honestly be too trashy for a lot of you to handle, but that's exactly why they send me out to go over the menu, so you all know what you're getting into, and we're not liable. This is the hottest track of winter 2020.
You're a pervert. I'm not a pervert. You are.
Stone. As a patron of this fine establishment,
No!
that you're interested in Japanese culture. Not to mention, you know, culture. But no matter how good the sub or dub for a particular piece of that culture may be, a little something will always be lost in translation. Ideally, you want to get everything straight from the source in the original Japanese, and while that is a whole lot easier said than done, Rosetta Stone makes the doing a whole lot easier too.
Oh my god, I don't care about your ads. I love you, but I didn't pay for that.
Now, in
I didn't get paid for that. I don't have to watch it.
has been quite liberal with the isekai and I can't believe it's not isekai options on our menus, but with no less than 10 debatably isekai type things coming out this winter, we had no choice but to get a little choosier. Tonight, we only have 2 on the menu, but they're both standouts in their own way. One, a classically styled piece of comfort food, the other, an experimental fusion dish I can only describe as bleeding edge. I can only describe it that way because it's mathematically impossible to make anything edgier than a half isekai, half death game anime, and that's exactly what my instant death ability is so overpowered is. Like, within the first 10 minutes of this show, every last kid in Protag-kun's class decides to leave him and his love interest for dead just because it seems like they might not be that useful in the death game, including the ones she thought were her friends. He doesn't actually have any friends. He just sits in the back of class and the bus playing his Switch all day, and in fact, he will keep playing his Switch and eventually get his waifu to, like, hand charge it with a crank generator for him so that he doesn't have to stop playing his Switch, but I digress. The only 3 classmates who do come back for them, still within that first 10 minutes, by the way, are these otaku freaks who got one whiff of isekai protagonist power and instantly decided to become sex criminals with it. I can't decide if that's brilliant genre satire or not, but I'm leaning toward not, because Protag-kun's whole justification for saving his love interest from those creeps, and also the dragon that tried to eat them a couple minutes before the creep showed up, is he likes how her boobs feel on his arm. Also, the way he saves her, as the title suggests, is by pointing at the bad things and saying, die. Though it also would have worked if he just thought that at him, or as an automatic self-defense response if anyone ever thinks it at him.
I don't know if this was the right color for the nose.
So, yeah, that's his ability. It
No,
is,
I
as
go
you might
pinker.
imagine, pretty overpowered, even more so than all the OP isekai protagonists the classmates are fighting in the death game, and of the demigods running that death game, which you get to become one of those demigods if you win it. Although Protag-kun won't get to become one because his ability exists outside the death game system, and neither will love interest Chan, since she was protected from having that isekai protag power system installed in her soul or whatever by quite possibly the most f***ing aggravating anime mascot ever drawn. Ugh, disgusting. I hate it. You should die. Then go die again. That would have worked if I was Protag-kun, though outside that one use case, I really wouldn't want to be. His powers just seem really boring, you feel me? Like, even if he's doing basically the same thing Anos Voldigo did that one time he beat a guy to death using only his own heartbeat, that's just clearly way more awesome than pointing at a guy and then he falls over forever because you said so. Luckily, there is fun to be had in watching the villains try to find loopholes around that ability using their slightly less overpowered powers, and in seeing what over-the-top anime trope the series wants to throw at the wall next. But the fact that the hero is all but guaranteed to be the least interesting guy in any given room does hold this trash back from reaching its potential. I give it 2 electronic store bins full of used smartphones with a death game app on them, which are exploding due to their lithium-ion batteries, but not in a particularly interesting way. Okay, so as culinary experiments go, clearly the whole death game isekai thing needed a bit more time in the oven, but that's exactly why we need some tried-and-true traditional trash around to fall back on. And recipes don't get more tried or true than the classic one-part isekai, one-part horror. Tales of Wedding Rings takes the foundational fantasy quest template of an ancient evil chasing down a chosen one who's destined to defeat it, and blends it seamlessly with your basic bread-and-butter harem formula by turning the obligatory magic jewelry MacGuffin into a set of 5 wedding rings, each one granting its wearer the power of a primal element proportionate in potency to the affection of the princess who bears its counterpart.
Oh my god.
So the more waifus Protag-kun gets and the happier he can make them, the more OP his OP isekai abilities become. In other words, if Rentaro Aijo had access to this power system, he would instantly become a god.
Be a god! That was on last episode of The Hottest Trash.
Now, Haruto Sato is definitely no Rentaro, but he's no Keitaro either. As harem protags go, he's quite the go-getter, the type of dude who'd charge headfirst into a magic portal with no way of knowing how to get home, purely for the sake of his beloved childhood friend, who turned out to be a reverse isekai princess. A man with the nobility and self-sacrificing grace to give up his dreams of monogamy with that childhood friend, to also marry several other sexy magic princesses, including an elf and a cat girl, if that's what it takes to protect his beloved from the evil forces of the Abyss King. Now, he does lose some points for refusing to admit his feelings to that childhood friend for multiple episodes after they've already married each other, but even with those deductions, he's still light years ahead of your average Kazuya. Now, there's nothing particularly novel about
Very
how
good
this
details.
series builds its harem or its
I must
fantasy
make her
world,
just
though
like the one
it
I
does
have in
add
real
some
life.
appealingly distinct aesthetic touches to both, especially if you like cat girls and cat girl-based civilizations. If anything, it's a little bit old school, reminiscent of pre-SAO isekai trash like El Hazard, only with a slightly more modern approach to harem writing where the characters actually talk about their feelings and try to make the relationship work in between all the times they almost screw but don't, as opposed to, you know, just kind of yelling at each other and being horrible. I'm not sure why all the horny teenagers in the mid-2000s liked that so much, but we did. A lot. The story tying it all together is likewise as paint by numbers as fantasy quests get. I literally predicted the entire plot of the second arc the second they mentioned the cat girls have an arena. But that familiarity only enhances the cozy, nostalgic vibe of the piece, which is not a wholesome vibe, to be clear. Please, do not make the mistake of thinking this anime is in any way wholesome. If you're not watching the uncensored cut, available now on Patreon, trust me, there are elf tits galore behind all this cute animal stock footage. Many of them quite hilariously deformed by just some of the worst animation I've ever seen. And when you've watched as many garbage harem anime as I have, that's maybe the most nostalgic thing of all. I give Tales of Wedding Rings 3 warm, inviting oil drum fires tucked cozily beneath an underpass next to some beers and a stack of vintage nudie mags. For our guests with allergies, tonight's menu also features an isekai-free harem option in Hokkaido gals are super adorable. Although, I must be honest with you, it's hardly the trashiest harem you've ever seen. I mean, the waifus do show a fair bit of skin, but, you know, for Hokkaido, with apologies, the chefs in back went a little nuts last season, making 100 girlfriends, and we're just running a little low on harem trash ingredients. Most of what we had also had to go to the main course, so we're all just gonna have to make do. Some of you might argue this doesn't even count as a harem at all, just a standard shonen love triangle thing with an exceptionally indecisive vertex. However, there are 3 eligible Gyaru bachelorettes that Protag-kun Tsubasa is ultimately incapable of deciding between, and...
Seems synced to me. I don't know.
It's been a while since I last did elementary school geometry, but I'm pretty...
Is it okay now? I don't know. It looks fine to me. It'd be weird if it was not fine for stream, but it was fine for me.
Pretty sure 3 + 1 is more sides than a triangle has, so it's a harem. Don't like it? Take it up with the trash FDA. The story and characters of this technically a harem anime are nothing you haven't seen before, especially not if you've seen My Dress-Up Darling. Timid Tsubasa and his boisterously friendly main gal Minami have so much in common with Wakana and Marin, you'd almost think this was them in winter cosplay. But that was a very fun relationship dynamic in the original show that hasn't been done to death in other anime since, so I don't really mind seeing it again in this new context. And the competing love interests, socially awkward gamer gal Sayuri and meek upper-class woman Rena,
For me, his mouth is moving at the same time as the words. I'm not sure why it's desynced. I'm sorry.
add more than enough wrinkles to keep it from feeling like a rehash. Still, it is, at best, like one ski lodge bin stuffed with fuzzy pink winter gear that's so last season. But don't worry, if that's not enough trash for you, you're about to get more than anyone could possibly ask for. Gushing Over Magical Girls is an anime for anyone out there who ever watched Sailor Moon and wondered why they always put all that glowy crap in front of the transformations. Our heroine, Utena-chan, would like to believe she's simply a typical fangirl who really admires
Love you, Utena.
the strength and
You
beauty
fucking
of
weirdo.
those magical girls, but deep down, she's exactly that kind of freak.
Also,
And
they named
that's
her
exactly
Utena.
what this adorably sinister little mascot dude is counting on when he offers to fulfill her dream of magically transforming without specifying what exactly she'll be henching into.
I love her also. Yellow Girl's my fave.
As As it turns out, he's not a magical girl mascot at all, but rather the vanguard of an apparently cash-strapped evil organization that can only afford, like, one uniform between two villainesses. And he wants her to take half that uniform, which turns out to fit her quite well, despite
it's censoring the titties.
Doesn't enjoy watching.
Censored something. Kitty, this one done. I also wanted to do a calico cat. I might actually look up a reference. Excuse me, friend. Excuse me, friend. Calico cat. So this, they've got like white bottoms and then orange and brown, black. So I think we can, well, maybe I should put white on him. Because this is kind of an off-white. I guess I can put some white on him. And then we'll put orange and brown. Okay, we have a plan.
Magical girls suffer. It quickly becomes obvious that she does, actually. Quite a lot. Maybe too much. But the magical girls quickly discover that they do too, so that sort of makes it
only Aqua! The other ones hate it!
All okay if you go by hentai logic. And you're
I shouldn't be defending this show so hard.
Anime because it is, without question, a tie on a hen. Specifically of the softcore BDSM variety, albeit one that's on TV somehow with a super catchy, gorgeously animated theme song, some surprisingly hilarious
on mainstream TV,
impressively fleshed out character arcs, but then most of those arcs are about someone who thinks they're not a freak embracing their inner freak because, again,
and they're character arcs that I enjoyed. Oh, that looks really cute. Oh, everybody go look at that image. That's super cute. That's exactly what I'm doing. Oh, what a good reference. We'll make that. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Maybe we can give him blushies too.
It's my lucky day.
It is what it is, and if you're into what it is, you'll probably be very happy with the overall quality of it.
I blame being starved for lesbian content.
Drastically a few episodes in, like it does in basically all these anime, except Interspecies Reviewers. That show was built different, but this show isn't. Even if it does mix some clever gags into the horny bits and frames them with some seriously fun slice-of-life comedy. If you're not here for the increasingly absurd fetish material, if only to see how absurd it gets, there's not a lot that's gonna keep you here besides, I guess, the fact that it's a Yuri that actually does things on screen.
Fuck yeah! Actually does things on screen! Yay! Oh my god, do you have any idea how rare that is? Anyways,
even if some
I'm
of
fine.
those things involve, you know, diapers, and glue traps. Look, no joke.
Glue traps!
I get it. Yuri enjoyers are so hard up for content that's
I am!
They're willing to resort to citrus. Not even hentai logic makes that show's plot okay. That said, if you can look past all the smut and also directly at quite a bit of it, because often the tickling and tentacle play scenes involve some shockingly significant character development. There is,
they really do.
Actually, no joke, a pretty solid story to be found here about self-discovery and sexual awakening, but you need to be, like, impervious to anime bullshit to appreciate any of that. Gushing over magical girls easily earns itself 5 filthy garbage barges full of BDSM gear and Sailor and the Seven Balls DVDs bathed in the white-hot glow of an oil-based lube fire. But as far as recommendations go, if you have to ask, it's probably not for you. Chained Soldier just might be. Or, as it's known in the original Japanese, Mato Seihei no Slave.
In what other show do the girls actually kiss on the mouth?
Isekai adjacent.
They always cut away the last moment!
Which I'm told are all the rage in Korean manhwa these days. So that
or
one
forehead
English
touch,
word in
which
the
is
title
fine.
isn't referring to any of the usual whitewashed historical atrocities, just good old-fashioned kinky shit.
Flicking her boots makes my dream come true.
To a world where, in contrast to, say, so...
This is why this show is so fun, because, like, this shit really exists, and he just compiles it, and it's so fun to see the fucking wild shit that is coming out of the anime marketplace.
Low leveling, only ladies get to have the cool monster fighting superpowers what come out of them portals. Yuki Wakara long ago gave up his boyhood dream of becoming a superhero to focus on his homemaking skills in hopes of one day landing a rich waifu. But those plans changed slightly after he finds himself facing down a horde of monsters in the other world, and Captain Kyoka of the Anti-Demon Corps uses her special superpower to turn him into her slave, which is a lot like being a regular safe-for-work transforming superhero, only with the added accessory of a chain-link leash and the added twist that, as a cost for using her power, his mistress has to reward her slaves with whatever they desire most the moment the battle ends, in direct proportion to how intense that battle was. So the more awesome the action scene, the more awesome the ecchi scene. Also, more specifically, it's his subconscious desires. So the fact that he can be a hero after all is far from the only thing Yuki's gonna discover about himself in his
Panda footage. Wait, oh, we can leave that. I gotta look at the kitty.
7th Anti-Demon Division's involuntary volunteer housekeeper, especially with 2 other super-powered hotties on base chasing his canonically quite impressive Schmeat. But lest you think this is just another bottom-of-the-barrel shonen battle harem whose only use for its power system is putting the girls in smoking hot fighting uniforms and asking questions like, what if Ultraman was a woman? And then she sat on me. Think again. Not only is Chain Soldier fast-paced and action-packed, but that action is
I have not watched this before! Excuse you! I don't know what this anime is. I've just watched these videos before many times because I love trash.
Shit.
Oh no, I might have sent it to you just because it has gushing over magical girls, which I have a vested interest in. For no reason in particular!
That said, if you want to watch this one for the action, which you totally should, this Twin Tails Ojo-sama has all the JoJo time control powers at the same time, and she activates them by JoJo posing. It's amazing! But if you do, you should always bear Imaishi's law in mind. No matter how insanely awesome the rest of an anime is, if someone walks in on you watching it, it will be the absolutely freakiest part.
Oh god.
But even in those parts, your shocked roommate /
wholesome cats, least wholesome video on the internet. There's worse, but still.
Glimpse of just how fun and playful the writing is. Like when Captain Kyoka decides to just deliver an important military briefing to Yuki while she's busy rewarding him with, what's a way that YouTube would let me say that? A bit of grape stomping? Anyway, she does an exposition dump in the middle of stepping on him because, hey, why not multitask? Also, the fact that those rewards come from Yuki's subconscious adds another hilarious layer where every time his mistress gives him the obligatory, you want me to do what? Disgusting part of the Dami Mommy care package, his response is just, hey lady, I'm as surprised as you are. Don't stop though. Battle and Trash are both at their best when they take themselves just not seriously enough, and Chain Soldier absolutely nails that sweet spot. I give it 5 solid gold dumpsters full of fireworks and military uniforms made in clear violation of all the sexiest regulations. And that's all the trash we've got for you tonight. Well, unless you'd like a complimentary wafer-thin after-dinner isekai about big titty elves in hot springs, offerings, but frankly, if those main courses weren't enough for you, that scares me a little. Get help. But
Get help.
Until next season, I'm Jeff Thu, your maître d'hors d'oeuvres, bidding you, with the help of Rosetta Stone's True Accent technology, adieu.
Is it a good one? Is it a good orange? It's a good orange. It's great. It's great. It's great. What else we got? What else we got? What else? Eh, fuck it!
Anime fans of all kinds are eating
I've watched all the hottest trash like 18 times.
mighty well this winter. Between Jujutsu Kaisen, Frieren, Pluto, and Scott Pilgrim, the art enjoyers out there have got more good fucking food than they know what to do with. But tonight, here at Chez Garbage, you trash connoisseurs will eat the best of all. We have an absolutely massive and very varied menu to get through this evening, with all of fall's new trash alone. So sadly, we won't be able to roast any returning anime on top of that. But if you absolutely need an update on, say, Girlfriend, it's going like that. Also, Shield Hero fans can finally rest easy knowing they'll never have to think about that f***ing turtle again, except for in several turtle-related flashbacks this season. But other than that, you're finally free. And of course, it goes without saying that the Eminence in Shadow is still peak. And yeah, that's everything that's coming back, I'm pretty sure. Yup, no other sequels or spin-offs I can think of. Especially not for any anime I've roasted before. Nope, not a one. So without further ado, this is the hottest trash of fall 2023, brought to you by Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is a
God, I don't care about your ad, but I love you, bro. Get that bag, get that money.
I've learned over the years that some of you guys won't learn some things no matter how many times I say them. So to the people preparing to comment that the 100 girlfriends who really love you is peak and thus doesn't belong in this video and or its thumbnail, I have only one thing to say. Trash heaps have peaks too. When I call an anime trash, I'm not saying it's of inherently poor quality. That would be garbage. Easy mistake to make. Trashiness isn't about quality at all. It's about taste, or rather the distinct, often deliberate, and delightful lack thereof. Trash is gaudy, casually offensive, nakedly self-indulgent, pun full-frontally intended there. It doesn't care what polite society thinks it should be doing, only what it wants to do. And often what it wants to do is just throw the audience and or author insert character into a room full of incredibly hot women who are constantly fighting over his dick for the duration of the death game or stay in Isekai land or whatever it turns out to be. A lot of trash is also
he has roasted Shield Hero.
Garbage. But some trash uses its unparalleled creative freedom to break truly new narrative ground. The only reason I founded this conceptually dubious restaurant in the first place was to find that kind of trash. And 100 Girlfriends is perhaps the ultimate.
It doesn't mean they're bad shows.
Example.
Can we get a different screen? Okay, that was wholesome. It doesn't mean that they're bad shows. It just means that they're trash, which means they are lurid. It just means they're camp. Sometimes they are legit bad though.
This show confidently declares the new narrative territory it plans to conquer right there in the title.
Okay, wait, we needed
a
some
harem
pink.
of 100 girlfriends who really love their protag-kun. Not just 100 cute character designs hanging all jigglily off his arm, though certainly that too, and the jiggling looks incredible. But no, we're talking 100 named, fully backstory storied characters with enough depth to form believable, emotionally satisfying relationships with Protag could. Ones that feel totally unique from all 99 of his other girlfriends. All of the girls Rentaro Ijo zings with, the series uses Hotel Transylvania rules for soulmates.
Alright, maybe just a little.
Have incredibly vibrant and distinct personalities, not just in relation to each other, but to the entire modern waifu meta. Some take well-worn tropes in fun new directions, like the starter pack, Karane and Hakari, who are the funniest tsundere and secretly slutty rich girl, respectively, who I've seen since Kaguya.
Yoshi, ikuzo, Karane! そんなもん強がってどうすんだなんかいかがわしいことしてるみたいになっちゃってるじゃんか
Meanwhile, other girls explore less conventional perspectives, like AI-san, who's so robotic in her drive for efficiency, she's literally never had fun before.
AI.
Or Shizuka, a non-verbal volunteer librarian
she's
who
so cute.
communicates exclusively in quotes she's memorized from this light novel series that's clearly her special interest.
She's
And don't worry,
adorable.
the story doesn't just treat these girls' issues like one-off gimmicks. Both the show and Rentaro are sincerely interested in understanding what makes each of these girls tick and exploring the unique challenges that come with their unique circumstances.
Orange
And more importantly, with helping them overcome those hang-ups in the long term over some very solid gradual character development, because he really loves each and every one of them back. It's easy to get distracted by how goodly animated. Wow. Also, other good qualities like the
Aw, do you relate?
There's humor, and it's outrageous.
There's humor and it's outrageous. Aw, are you her? Are you the little mousy library girl? Cute. She's like my favorite one of the cast. Ah, no! The nail! It fell on the ground. It's fine. He's dying from hand holding.
But if you really look under the hood at just how many moving parts this story has, or how it manages to give all of the different characters its juggling complex relationships both with Rentaro and each other, what impresses most is just what a Herculean feat of writing the whole thing is. Even in these early stages where the quantity gimmick hasn't really kicked in yet, the quality of these female characters is better than, like, 95% of all the harems ever, and frankly, 70% of all non-harems shonen and seinen. And Rentaro is the most likable, Chadley, S-tier boyfriend material harem protag possibly ever?
Possibly ever?
Like, miraculously, no matter how many girls there are, there is never, at any moment, a single question of why any of them would want him, even if you take out the whole "because God said so" plot device. All of these relationships just make sense.
That's the reason. I have read this one. I don't think I think more has come out since I last caught up, but that is the reason that this one kind of stands above a lot of other shows. He does actually give a shit and, like, try and be a nice person. And a lot of the times with, like, the romance stupid shit, you're just like, why does anybody like this guy? He's trash. He is not trash. One of the most famous panels is it's his face surrounded on all sides of just text about all the things he likes about his girlfriends. I forget how many they're up to now. It's definitely in double digits. It was fun. I think, like, the Western girl who, like, dresses like a cowboy was the last chapter that I read where she got introduced. I don't really remember.
Also makes sense why all of his S-tier girlfriend material girlfriends would be willing to share him. Most harems, literally a 20th of this one's size, can't pull that off. I simply have no choice but to award 100 girlfriends 5 solid gold dumpsters.
Solid gold dumpsters, baby!
William Shakespeare with all the old-timey swear words highlighted, plus a load of fireworks. Trash doesn't get much peaker than that. And if you want to peek down into Garbage Valley for contrast, you need look no further than A Girl and Her Guard Dog. Another fall rom-com about, geez, where to even begin? I guess we'll start where the show does. This is the first shot we ever see of the leads in this look. I'll give you a sec to take it all in and see if...
I think it's good romance. I think a lot of it is also comedy. I would recommend it. I think it's cute, but I don't know. I'm also bad at... I don't watch romance that much. I don't like the genre. I mostly watched that one because it's fun. I didn't watch it. I read it. If I ever said I watched it, read. I read a lot more than I watch. I troll on the manga sites and I just find, oh, that one looks cute, and then I get fucking embroiled in this woman fucked a snake mangas. There's some wild shit.
You can maybe spot any problems.
I'll read any trash you put in front of me. I don't give a shit.
Remember Usagi Drop? You know, the really awesome anime about a young orphan girl and her adopted dad based on a manga that we don't like to talk about? Well, Guard Dog figured out how to tell a similar story without completely ruining the parts people like about it, by taking all those bits out and skipping straight to the grooming.
俺が伊作さんのお兄ちゃんにもなります。全部俺がなってあげる。
ちょっと何？かわいい。無理。好き。離れられないこの気持ちは今日も大きくなるばかりだ。
Well, it's not completely one-to-one with Usagi Drop. This little blonde lady who used to carry a stuffed rabbit around everywhere isn't just any orphan. She's the orphaned granddaughter of a Yakuza boss, which means that her father, mother, brother, boyfriend figure isn't just some ordinary guy trying to make ends meet and support her, but a Yakuza enforcer who uses his position and a little bit of violence to infiltrate the new faraway high school where she was hoping to get a fresh start and make new friends who don't know that her family does organized crime, so he can stalk her and also scare away any of those nasty boys who might try to talk to her. Not as a teacher, of course. That would be weird. This 26-year-old man goes in as a student.
How do you do, fellow kids?
And it's a good thing he does too, because the very first boy she hangs out with turns out to be an underage drinker. Also smoker, and so are all his friends. Whew, bullet dodged. Good thing this professional murder pedo was here to make sure no crimes happened. Yeah, this show gets 4 big honkin' industrial Kobe beef packing dumpsters full of extremely questionable fan fiction and even more questionable meat packages, which smell like pork, not beef when you burn them. Oh, right. Also, the dumpsters are very, very on fire. So, now that you know the difference between trash and garbage, we can find... Oh, you still need some clarification? Well, luckily, the Isekai menu this season does have plenty of suspiciously similar examples we can compare and contrast. Examples like a playthrough of a certain dude's VR MMO life, a title that ranks right up there with The Legend of the Legendary Heroes for descriptiveness and specificity. Ironically, this is one of the most unique VR MMO anime to come out lately, at least on paper, by sole virtue of the fact that its Kirito is like an adult with a full-time job and stuff, which means he can't just no-life his way to overpowered status, because he's already no-lifing for an exploitative corporation. So for once, Protag-kun isn't totally overpowered. What? When did I say that? Don't put words in my mouth. I can see why you'd think it, though. Because he's only gaming in his spare time outside his work hours, unlike, you know, everyone else in the entire world who plays video games, Protag-san doesn't want other players to have to rely on him too much. So, when he creates his character, he intentionally chooses the worst class and all the worst skills from the beta, so no one will want to party up. And he can enjoy some relaxing solo play with an intentionally underpowered build, because obviously that's what you would want to have for your first playthrough of a new game when you know you're not gonna have other players to support you. But then, in a shocking twist, if you've never seen any show like this before, it turns out that all those worst skills actually have secret super good synergies with each other that the beta players just never discovered, such as the incredibly obscure combo of stealth and archery. That's right, literally the most basic Skyrim cheese strat. Protag couldn't invented it by accident. Wow, what a genius. He's also pretty much the only player in the whole game who can craft medicine, because in beta you could just buy potions from the NPCs, so, you know, why bother? And I guess all the MMO veterans in that beta just assumed the devs would never bother to fix a problem with their economy that renders an entire system they probably spent years developing functionally useless, because they are all f***ing shocked Pikachus when the NPC vendors start running out of stock and Protag-kun cleans up with these great flavored potions he's been testing in his vending machines, which he has because, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, he's also the only player in the entire game who's tried the cooking system since launch. Look, if you told me this anime was written by the same guy as this ad...
Hey guys, finished testing that game yet? I've got another one I need designed.
We just finished level 3 and need to tighten up the graphics a little bit.
Great.
I would not believe you. Obviously, the show's Japanese. But that's the only reason I wouldn't. A certain VR MMO dude gets 2 waste paper baskets full of Nexon game cards and a certain funny thing? Substance? F it. This anime's not trying, why should I? And all this only gets more embarrassing when you look at that piece of crap next to the cream of fall's VR MMO trash crop, Shangri-La Frontier. An anime about gamers that actually understands gaming. And when I say that, I'm not just talking about the gamer side of the culture that other good VR MMO shows like Log Horizon and SAO Alternative Gun Gale also nail. This show also gets the behind the scenes shit. It's clearly written by someone who both plays a lot of games and actually knows what goes into developing them. And it leverages that knowledge to craft impressively believable speculative fiction about not just all the cool new ways that games could play with future advancements in immersive VR technology, but also all the cool new ways those games could break. The show's hero, Sunraku, is truly a man after my own flashy heart, obsessed with exploring those absurdly broken extremes of VR game design. As a Kusoge hunter, he'd rather feel the unique thrill of triumphing over busted escort quests and seemingly unbeatable bugged-out bosses than have his hand held through the safe, samey AAA slop that can afford to polish those problems away. Shangri-La Frontier is a totally different beast, though. This Kamige that's had the whole mainstream gaming world abuzz for the last year features vast AI-driven emergent gameplay and story scenarios for explorer-type gamers to uncover, plus multi-layered customization systems that allow for seemingly endless personal player expression. And for the truly hardcore like Sunraku hoping for a real challenge, there are 7 unique boss monsters hiding throughout the world, each designed to put the unparalleled responsiveness of the game's avatars to the ultimate mechanical test. And after a chance encounter with one of those beasts, Lycagon the Night Slayer, leaves him stricken with a permanent debuff curse, Sunraku vows he won't quit the game until he's tracked it down and beaten it. That's right, no death games, no harem bullshit. This VR MMO anime manages to make a genuinely fascinating, hype-as-shit story out of one extremely talented gamer's quest to beat some brutally tough bosses. This is everything I ever wanted.
He looks weird!
Such a fun show that puts in so much effort that Honestly, I'd feel like a lazy asshole if I just reused the golden dumpster bit for it. So instead, I've invited world-famous trash MMO roaster Josh Strife Hayes to give this delectable dish a rating in his own house style.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Well, with the chef's permission, I'll award Shangri-La Frontier this waifu I'd totally let kill me. Or player kill me. Out of 10.
Thanks, Josh! See you at TrashCon! When we're done here, you should definitely go check out his worst MMO ever videos. If you like my roasts, they will be right up your alley. Not this alley. This is my alley. I'm paying $1,200 a month for this place. We're in Vancouver. Speaking of, I believe, based on my experience with the manga, that the hot new Vancouver-mentioning Shonen Jump adaptation, Undead Unluck, also has the potential to be premium-grade anime trash of the highest order. Unfortunately, not only have the show's distributors at Disney and Hulu completely doomed its chances in North America by failing to give it even a single tweet's worth of promotion, they also just completely f***ing forgot to put it on Disney Plus in Canada at all, so I can't even watch it to do a proper roast. Thus, in lieu of a trash rating, gold or otherwise, for the show itself, I'm forced to give Disney and Hulu management a box of dead rats. So, Bob Iger, I know you're personally watching this, expect that in the mail in 3 to 5 business days. Okay, now that you finally know the difference between trash and garbage for real this time... No? You're still confused?
Need more spots. Need more spots.
Oh, I know. Have you heard of 16-Bit Sensation, Another Layer? It's the anime of choice for old taku this fall, thanks to its nostalgia-heavy slice-of-life comedy story about a visual novel illustrator who goes back in time to live out her dream of making actual video games rather than modern erotic shovelware, which serves as a perfect vehicle for both endless in-jokes and deep-cut references for visual novel addicts, as well as a journey through the recent history of Akihabara and its transformation in tandem with the rise of Bishoujo culture that any kind of otaku will appreciate. Now, as a, let's call it, Shirobako-like, 16-Bit Sensation isn't really all that trashy, even if a not insignificant portion of the plot revolves around opening rare old porn games in public to initiate time leaps, and even though every episode ends with a roll of all the girls in very nice swimsuits. You see, all those sexy CGs are actually gorgeously color-authentic 16-bit pixel art, lovingly rendered with a surprisingly convincing CRT filter, which technically makes them key details in the historical accuracy of this period drama. I swear, Mom, I'm watching it for the educational reasons and the world-class post-processing effects.
この98の気持ちももっと考えろ。こんなに一生懸命働いてくれてるんだぞ、9801は。
Seriously, though, it's less a flaming trash heap than a cozy little dumpster full of body pillows with an exactly U-shaped hole right in the middle, which I'm choosing to reuse this Build-A-Bear graphic for, because honestly, we just don't got the art budget to draw up new ratings for anime that aren't even technically on the menu. Anyway, whether or not 16-Bit Sensation truly is trash to you, it is undeniably about trash. Generational eroge trash, and the wonderful sorts of weirdos who made it back in the golden dumpster age of Japanese PC gaming, which you can and should compare and contrast to the absolute garbage Konoha's stuck making in the present to understand the difference between those two things. Finally. Please? Alright, you get it. No. You get it. We're moving on to the obligatory isekai, which for once, there's only one of, though don't you worry, we got plenty of vegan isekai substitute to make up for it if somehow that's not enough after all the stuff that we have served you every season It's nothing but isekai. It never stops. Anyway, Butareba, the story of a man who turned into a pig, is a story about a man, specifically a who gets isekai'd by food poisoning himself with a pig's liver and ends up in the body of a pig. And thus he must do all the isekai stuff despite only being able to do pig stuff, plus like a little bit of human thinky stuff. Also DDR stuff. He's very good at DDR. 2 episodes in a row fill an entire minute of screen time with just him doing DDR inside his head, while various poorly animated villagers look on and react.
We need tail. What color should the tail be?
The main thing he does is think extremely perverted thoughts
Many
about
colors.
the beautiful slave girl who rescued him from the pig pen, which she can hear because every member of her enslaved race, the Yethma, have telepathic powers. So it's really a show about a 19-year-old guy constantly telling the 16-year-old girl he's constantly reminding himself, and the audience is, in fact, 16, how nice and silky her thighs are. That technically doesn't count as sexual harassment because he's not saying it out loud and she can't help hearing it. You know, the sort of isekai where they gotta spend several minutes figuring out exactly how to straddle and ride a pig without getting too, stimulated by the experience. Also, in a shocking twist, one of the only types of isekai I've seen with a sexy slave waifu in it that actually bothers to, like, condemn chattel slavery as a concept unambiguously without fetishizing or apologizing for it in any way. Also, when a hotter guy shows up and starts making eyes at his crush, the pig's just like, yeah, that makes me jealous, but she can do what she wants. I don't own her. So don't judge a book by its cover, I guess? Or its other contents, for that matter. I give Butareba 3 toxic waste barrels full of surprisingly feminist softcore bestiality dojins.
Softcore bestiality.
I also found myself quite pleasantly surprised with the Returner's magic should be special, which seems like just another half-assed Mahoka-like pseudo-Harry Potter clone about a guy in a magic school with mostly tournament arc-oriented curriculum whose magic power is the power to turn off other magic powers, and it mostly is one of those, albeit without Mahoka's iconic sister f***er elements, but it manages to take a seed of a sort of unique idea and develop it into something genuinely interesting with that framework. The Returner part of the title refers to our protag, Desir Herman, who returns to his first day of magic school from the last day of an apocalyptic monster battle that killed all his classmates 3 years in the future, which of course he wants to stop by bringing all those classmates up to his own OP level. But that's easier said than done when the nobility-run school refuses to give its commoner students a proper education. So the story isn't really about killing all the monsters to save the world, it's about fixing the systemic oppression that stands in the way of true monster-killing progress. Based, honestly. And I mean, the genius solution he comes up with to that systemic problem is just to prove the bigots wrong by winning a tournament arc. Not exactly galaxy-brained politics there. But the trio he puts together to do that, consisting of him, a tsundere with a secret crush on him, and a little fencing twink with also a secret crush on him, the tsundere happens to think is platonically adorable, thus creating this very fun, not quite love triangle dynamic, actually reflects that theme really well by representing the outsider perspectives of a commoner, a nouveau riche noble, and a nobleman's secret bastard, respectively. So, as they interact with each other and the other students, their backstories naturally fuel the world building in really interesting ways. There is some surprisingly solid fantasy writing buried in all this magic school anime bullshit, and the same can be said for the Demon Lord at Excalibur Academy, although in that show's case the bullshit goes at least as deep as the world building, if not deeper, which is impressive in a way, considering how much time this show devotes to fleshing out both the prehistory
Good watch for
history
cute
of the
twinkle.
double reincarnated human hero turned demon lord turned 12-year-old boy, and the 1,000-year modern history of the monster-besieged Magitech-based civilization that's seemingly long since forgotten both of his legends. No bones about it, that is some intriguing and genuinely original world building, and the show has a lot of it. So imagine how high the bullshit pile has to be to match that. There are a lot of layers to this anime's setting and characters, but to get to them, you gotta go through even more layers of the protag being an adult man in a 12-year-old's body and flirting with, like, every kind of woman who
It's a
should
thick
not
tail.
be flirting with that kind of body, especially a teenage girl who happens to technically also be a corpse, a sexy corpse, that cannot resist the commands of her necromantic master, who, let me remind you, is a 12-year-old boy. So, you know, in case any isekai fans in the house were worried that the guard dog girl trash was gonna outdo your favorite genre, worry not! Your crown is safe for another season.
ダメじゃないレオくん。それ石鹸でしょ？シャンプー使わないと。
Oh no! Get it off the screen!
恥ずかしいの？男の子
No, don't come in here. Just kidding. I don't live with my mom no more.
Bins full of slightly smoldering printouts of surprisingly political Harry Potter slashfic, and the Demon Lord with the magic sword gets 4 flaming dumpsters full of just the tags for all the other Harry Potter fanfics. If I had a nickel for every anime season that gave me a reason to deploy this meme in 2023, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I guess it's not that weird it happened twice. It's a very popular meme, and I love Phineas and Ferb. Anyway, Ragna Crimson is also about a super OP guy from the future where all his friends are dead, sending his brain back in time to unmurder all of them. Though in contrast to the more political approach of its contemporary, Ragna Crimson goes about this by being as absurdly edgy as it possibly can at every conceivable moment. Starring, quite possibly, the edgiest guy ever named Ragna, and the only other contender for that crown is literally named Ragna the Blood Edge. So here's the thing. It's the old medieval days, except there's cars and guns sometimes, and life is mostly chill for people, except also there's dragons sometimes, which you can't kill with the guns unless you spend a lot of money on silver bullets. Or maybe you catch them out in sunlight because it's one of them Demon Slayer type situations where they just took some JoJo vampires and called them something else. Anyway, that's why there's still dudes running around with silver swords hunting dragons, even though guns. Also, some not dudes do it, including this one, Leo, who's like 12 and also the best at it, a true dragon murder genius, which is why this wimpy, much older than 12 dude named Ragna is traveling with her, cooking for her, cuddling her in bed, bathing her, and so on. Wow. All this modern technology, and they still haven't invented child protective services. Not that it would have helped much in protecting that child or anyone else when the 10 mighty greater dragons decide to use all their JoJo vampire powers to wipe out all of humanity. Ragna survives that, though, after fusing with his own silver sword and gaining the power to fight those greater dragons head on. Then, after all of them are dead, he takes that power back in time to save Leo and all the other humans, presumably, with the help of this mad scientist edgelord dragon named Crimson, who wants to kill all the other dragons because reasons. And you know what they say, double the edgelords, double the edge. If you want to watch some very cool, beautifully animated magic turn vast swaths of people into equally beautiful bursts of blood and giblets, also, sometimes dragons get turned into that, this anime's all that in a bag of extremely pointy potato chip shards.
Clownfish cat. Clownfish cat.
And if you want to add a third edgelord to the mix for even more fun,
Clownfish
Kingdoms of
cat.
Ruin provides more of the
Clownfish cat.
same with its story of a world where humanity and witches once lived in harmony until the humans invented science and decided to genocide all the witches with it because they were holding humanity back by helping us with magic too much. Kind of just seems like the humans felt like it. Anyway, this prompts our OP protag Adonis, the lone human apprentice of the strongest witch ever, Chloe, who is like a mother to him, and also a father, a brother, a sister, and
a lover.
Last one. To embark on a mad quest for revenge when he finally breaks out of the magic Hannibal Lecter box the human emperor stuck him in after shooting her in the face right in front of him when she was about to say, "I love you," because of course she was about to say that. It wouldn't be the edgiest thing possible if she wasn't. Though when he does get out, taking on all the humans proves much easier than expected, because it turns out they can't use their anti-magic tech anymore because it has a side effect of giving people eye-bleeding super cancer, like instantaneously the second you're exposed to even just a little bit of the anti-magic radiation, which nobody noticed for a decade somehow, even though they were using that constantly. And like, yeah, the world building and whole story situation here really is not great. Some might even call it garbage. Personally, my eyes completely glaze over every time this show takes even a minute-long break for exposition dumps or character development. But luckily, the many scenes where half the characters we just met barely get half a sentence out before getting smushed or sukuna'd by some magic bullshit or science bullshit, as the case may be, more than make up for the too many scenes of those same characters talking way, way too f***ing much. If anything, the boring bits just make the carnage more cathartic.
My God.
If you're just looking to turn your brain off for a bit and unwind with some edgy fun, both of these anime are perfect for it. But unfortunately, if you were hoping to quadruple down on that edginess, I'm sorry to report that Fall's last option is a bit lacking in comparison, to put it mildly. Not to judge a book by its cover, but when I saw this anime's source material on a manga shelf this summer, sporting the bright red title, Berserk of Gluttony, I judged that shit super hard, and this anime has only validated that knee-jerk reaction. Sure, it's not quite the blatant knockoff that 7C's branding makes it out to be. Ragna Crimson's got way more We Have Berserk at Home vibes if you actually watch either of these anime, but that's just because gluttony-type Berserk is far too busy knocking off other way shittier fantasy anime to borrow much of anything from its peak namesake. Set in one of those anime fantasy worlds that works like a JRPG kinda just because, the show's resident Kirito, Fate Graphite, yes, that is his real name,
Fate
is the
Graphite,
type of Kirito
Jesus!
that gets picked on because everyone thinks his unique JRPG skill is super duper underpowered, when actually it's super duper overpowered. You didn't see that coming. More specifically, it lets him circumvent the world's traditional level up mechanics in favor of stealing the stats of any monster or person he kills. But he's got to keep all that secret, you see, because those traditional level up mechanics are religious orthodoxy in this world, and if his sinful skill ever gets out, the church will send its holy knights to murderize him. Though, of course, if and when that happens, he'll be the only one doing any murderizing on account of how OP he is, but that's probably good for society at large, in addition to him, because all the holy knights seem to be giant bullies. I mean, villains. This show definitely isn't a thinly veiled metaphor for getting back at all the popular kids in high school. It's a super serial, gritty, dark fantasy about a world where the so-called nobility do very realistic and historical bad things, like buying child orphans on the black market to fulfill their sick fantasies of doing William Tell impressions. Corrupt holy knights outcast heroes themed around the 7 deadly sins, the boring, entirely stat-based
Alrighty.
magic system, completely dogshit writing on every level. Why do I feel like I've heard this all before in some kind of repressed memory? Nah, I must be imagining things. Anyway, I
We
think
snip
you
a
get the
little
point
bit,
by
make
this
him
point.
slightly
Ragna
shorter.
Crimson gets 4 trash cans full of blood and razor
Shortens
blades
his
that are
tail.
also on fire somehow. And also that fire is black, like my soul. Then I'm gonna give Kingdoms of Ruin 3 of that same sort of trash bin. And then Berserk of Gluttony gets, let's say, 2 trash cans full of tomato juice and safety scissors. Sorry for the state of that last almost isekai, but if you're still craving more edgy goodness even after all that, there is one other anime genre we can source it from. Death games. And this fall we have one that represents the absolute pinnacle of both trash and garbage. Kami Erebi God App is the kind of death game that could only come from the mind of Yoko Taro, executed with the kind of ineptitude that you can only get by asking a sane, normal writer to develop a Yoko Taro concept on his own without any help from Yoko Taro because Yoko Taro was too busy, presumably dealing with all the near anime delays. Also, it's got character designs by the creator of Soul Eater.
That's good.
Rendered in terrible CGI by a brand new studio that's clearly still figuring their tech out.
That's bad.
Boy, that's an understatement. It's so bad, it's already locked in for my best, worst, and most cursed anime of 2023 list, which premieres next month on this very channel. I mean, in this very restaurant. So, with apologies, I'm gonna hold off on roasting it until then.
That tail was maybe too big.
I'm as bummed as you are, but this is already the longest, hottest...
This is more of a weird raccoon!
...menu we've ever put together, and me and the chefs are pretty darn tired after cooking all that up on top of 2 Scott Pilgrim videos, all in the space of 2 weeks during Thanksgiving, so please just have a bit of patience. I promise once that's finally out of the oven, it'll be well
are off!
Thanks so much for being so understanding. Now get the f*** out, it's closing time. Wait, actually, one more thing
That's
before
another
you go.
kind of
I want
cat.
to give a shout out to longtime fan of the channel,
What else should
The
we do?
Ravens Doctor, and the first volume of his light novel series, Creation of the Inevitable. I've seen almost...
What? Cat breeds. Cat breeds. Oh, I could do that one. Look at all those babies. Oh, I could do a Siamese. Isn't that what that one is? I don't remember. Just like give him a little gray face and gray ears and blue eyes. I do need to, let me see my eyes. Yeah. Something like that. Let's do that, guy. Pop Tropica
For the
lore!
past 15 years, Pop Tropica has existed as an MMO revolving around solving problems across dozens of islands and even learning new things along the way. However, beneath all of that, there has existed a massive and kind of convoluted story that almost nobody has seemed to look into. So let's go right in and find out what's been going on in this world throughout all of this time. Hi everybody, I'm here in the Oval Office. I've become president. There's been a lot going on in the
Congrats,
past
you're
couple weeks,
president.
but I don't know how I got here, but I sure am. And I'm ready to do president stuff like declare wars and make laws, or at least I'm pretty sure that's what I do. So Pop Tropica has been on my mind for quite some time now. It definitely gave me the vibe of something deeper going on as a story behind the scenes. And boy howdy, there sure was, and I don't know how I feel about that. Our story today takes place primarily between 2 locations or planets, whatever you want to call them. At least one of the 2 are called Pop Tropica. For the sake of this, I'm gonna call the one that is for sure Pop Tropica, Pop Tropica. The second one is basically Earth. Not our exact one-for-one world, just one where Adam and Eve were replaced by Mr. Pringle and an oyster, because all the people look like this. I'll be dubbing this not Earth as Harrison, because I'd rather call it Harrison than not Earth. Supposedly the same stuff plays out in Harrison as it did for Earth. Pretty much one for one, but only kind of and only sometimes, and every once in a while a random part of the world becomes accessible by Pop Tropicans, or Pop Tropians. I'm gonna say one or the other. You just gotta accept it. And by that I mean at random points in time, at random parts of Harrison, sections of the world will appear in Poptropica Planet as islands. They basically act as portals when this is the case. Very rarely will islands stop acting as portals, but if they close, they remain closed regardless of what side the portal people are on. I would best describe it like a game of whack-a-mole. Imagine that on the game cabinet, we're looking at where the moles actually pop out and get hit, and treat this like the portal. The exterior of that is the Poptropica plane, where we can use our external forces, i.e. in this case, the hammer, to hit the moles, which I would consider exploring the islands when they show up. Imagine also that if in this case, the hammer doesn't lower the moles, but if hit wrong, it can alter the timeline of whack-a-mole, which by proxy messes up all of reality. Eventually, if you hit the mole with a hammer or not, the mole should be expected to return back into the hole and away from crossing between planes. One tiny problem with this though, because all of the islands are from separate times in history, the timeline is fundamentally flawed, dumb, and stupid, and the butterfly effects that can happen here run so rampant, and it's this unpredictable hellscape. But that's great to get out of the way. In this game, it's good to know that time as a whole in this universe is as sturdy as a cheese stick. There are multiple ways to decipher this story. For the sake of this, I'm gonna assume the release dates of these things are when they happen in Poptropica time, but I'll use our own history to determine when Harrison Islands take place in their time points. In my eyes, the best place to start has to be in the books, more specifically the 4 graphic novels that take place in 2015 on both timelines. And you know me, I love reading, so this'll be fun. So in the books, we got 3 kids that are important. There's Oliver, who is in fact a main character. His dad left the family and divorced because of him, by the way. His mom remarries to the dad of one of the other kids, Maya, and they hate each other at the time being, and Maya is still a little salty of her mom dying on a random Christmas morning. Honestly, fair, you can't be too upset about that. And then there's also George. He's the fat one. That's his character trait. You know the meme about like pizza and friends equaling fun? That's their dynamic basically, just more divorced than usual. This story is an isekai for people who don't have a BMI higher than their IQ, or you're fortunate enough to not watch anime. An isekai is when characters or several characters are brought into a new world unlike anything they've ever seen. Wow! One day, the children go on a hot air balloon until their pilot of the balloon sees a storm and flies into it, causing the 4 characters to be sent to Poptropica. This is Octavia.
What's your tail look like? Show me your tails. They have brown tails. Okay, question answered.
And he's a bad guy. He's got a map that lets him travel between all the Poptropica islands instead of regular not Earth Harrison islands, and for the moment, that's really all you gotta know. Anyway, the hot air balloon crashes on the Mystery of the Map Island that takes place in 2015 and between 1950 to 1000. See what I mean? This is gonna be convoluted, the times aren't gonna make sense, but it's gonna be fun. We're fine. In this book, the 3 main pals all get captured by Vikings, while Octavian is stuck in a tree and being uncool. You can play through this book in the game version, but otherwise everything plays out about the same. The kids escape while Octavian gets captured by the Vikings. This immediately gets undone in the second book when Octavian cleaves the skull of a Viking. There is a kill count in Poptropica. It will go up. The trio goes to a few islands and just get absolutely curb stomped everywhere. They just cause a lot of riots. They almost die in the Arctic to a snowstorm and polar bear, but don't thanks to a crashed ship dealing with scurvy, and meet Lieutenant Rogers and Captain Franklin. They all quickly become pals after feeding the crew oranges, then they try to find an escape only for the boat to get destroyed by the same polar bear from before. They return and a few things happen, namely that Octavian shows up again and steals the magic map back from the kids. Lieutenant Rogers has like a tribal tattoo, a lot of characters do in fact. Oh, and a magical spaceship flies in and abducts the children. We got a new character now, Spencer Albright. He's the leader of the Secret Society, and these guys are important to this story specifically. See, because of how everything works in the world, you know, that existence itself is about as stable as a stale Twizzler, and there's bad antics everywhere and whatnot, there's gotta be some precautions. In Poptropica, the Secret Society and members of this group do everything they have to make sure the portals through time don't get tampered with and change the timeline. Octavian originally was a member until he met this one woman named Paula, and they started a relationship. One problem though, she lives on Harrison, specifically in a small European town around August in the year of 79. Do you know anything that happens in any small European town around August in the year 79? Pompeii. Paula dies in a volcano eruption, and Octavian is bummed the flip out. Initially, he tries reverting it so Paula is alive again, but then the secret society is like, dude, we didn't do shit during the Titanic when it showed up. You're out of your gosh diddly darn mind if you think we're gonna save Pompeii. So then after she gets thrown back into Pompeii and gets brutally killed by a volcano, they just drag her back in. He decides to take over Poptropica and by proxy all of Time of Heresy, which is exactly what he's doing with the map. We also find out that the tribal tattoo specifically is this thing called the Aegis, which is capable of rewinding small periods of time. So now the entire secret society's freaking out and losing to this single dude. Our group goes to Egypt during the construction of the pyramids right as the portal is starting to close, just in time to watch Octavian bomb the Great Pyramids of Giza, which makes all of Egyptian history disappear. This event kills at least a few people, and at least one of them was needed in Spencer's family tree, erasing him and basically anyone with ancestry relating to this moment from history as a result. So now things aren't looking too good. The secret society is gone, everything sucks, and the gang goes down to a submarine to find the heart of Poptropica and the Nexus. And they do. And when they do, this is when I realized how futile the efforts of making a Poptropica timeline was. Spencer Albright's still alive because there's multiple timelines. Do you remember when I said the timeline looks like this? Well, actually it looks more like this. Supposedly, there's millions and millions of timelines. There are so many timelines that the screen is just black with time points. And there is really just so much to deal with, but really treat this like the MCU after Avengers Endgame, where there suddenly becomes way less stakes, and the series is ruined when you overthink it, because instead of the universe being at risk, only a universe is at risk. Do you see the problem? There's not much intensity now. So then each character sees themselves in a different timeline, and the Octavian of our timeline we've been following dies trying to hop between realities to see his girlfriend. He dies because he's horny, long story short. Oliver and friends all can finally go home, and just in case Poptropica needs more help, they get time crystals so they can hop back. I should also add that there's a comic strip following Oliver and George without Maya, and they play out about the same but without an extensive story. These are two entirely different characters from these two. I don't know what to do with them, so we're just gonna sweep this under the rug. We're gonna entirely ignore it. This is not real. We're not gonna acknowledge this, but we are gonna acknowledge this 10-second long bit. This little talk by little old me was brought to you by Gamer Subs. They didn't edit or script anything. That was all me though. This thing full of powder stuff is the only vitamin powder that your lovable president uses to play Poptropica. That's a true story. And make sure to use code CHUBO next time you buy some, and I'll get free stuff. And I like free stuff. And you should like that I like free stuff. Also, in some exciting news...
Excuse me, Mr. True President, sir?
What are you doing in my new safe space? Why are you interrupting my sponsor segment?
Well, sir, I'm your secretary, Jake Miller, seen on my glamorous name tag, and you gotta knock your lawmaking antics the flip off.
What?
Well, you see, you're making laws and you actually can't...
No. Stop talking. Why does your name have 3 separate vowels? That's too many. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm making a new law where your name's now Milk. How's that sound? Milk. I'm also making it illegal for you to disagree and not sit down in that chair and wait until my more important...
Hey, brown nose, same color.
Are done. Wait your turn. I'm the president.
Maybe.
Anyway, that's about all there is in the Poptropica graphic novels meant for children, but there's still an entire game to look at. But honestly, I don't think the rest of this will be that complicated, more so just elaborating on things we already... There is a lot of Poptropica content, to say the least. Versions alone make this kind of complicated. I mean, there's already 5 versions of the game. There's the Steam version, the browser version you can find on Cool Map and mobile, the DS version, the 3DS version, and the shutdown Flash version. And all of them have different islands. A few islands appear on multiple versions, but if you want to beat Poptropica, you'll have to buy it 3 separate times and then find a way to play the old Flash one. Browser one's free though, so yeah, that's a good place to start. Here's the thing though, most of this stuff is independent to respective islands, and most of these events are just actual events in history but Poptropicized. Like the Mystery of the Map Island is a good example. We don't need to go over that again, and from what I could gather, that seems like the 2nd island in terms of Harrison chronological order, but it's the 44th in Poptropica's one, so it sucks, and it makes me sad, and I don't have seasonal depression, but if it feels anything like how I do now, let me tell you, I don't want it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna specifically base this off of Harrison's timeline, because that's the more complicated one, and I just like making things more complicated. I think it's fun. Let's start off at Mythology Island, 2010, and Ancient Greek Mythos time.
Siamese, I
This
guess.
sucks. Zeus is a dick biscuit, final boss of this island, and will return. That is everything I need to say for over 30 minutes of gameplay on this island. That is the only plot-relevant thing worth a note. Skipping a couple islands, let's take a look at Astronauts Island in 2009 and the 1400s-ish. This is basically the first major split in history between Earth and Harrison, but this guy Mordred brought technology to the kingdom Arcturus. He then gets banished and locked into a dungeon for this specific activity, so that's a bummer for about 15 minutes until he escapes on a rocket and goes to space. In the 1400s. So then the medieval kingdom thinks he died in space, but the princess isn't so sure. So she investigates and gets abducted by aliens led by Mordred, who's turned himself into a cyborg by the name of Binary Bard. So then after a fun space adventure, that doesn't happen, and he presumably gets killed by a space chandelier. 2010, in the 17th century probably. Pirates! Wowie! Captain Crawfish. He's a captain and not a crawfish.
I like
He's
the
a bad
pirate
guy.
island, it was
Stop the
fun.
bad guy. He's bad and a pirate. 2011, and whenever Thomas Edison specifically was on a train.
Well, you
on
should
Mystery
have
Train
said that earlier. It's too late now. Fuck you.
Island, I'm sure this is gonna shock you. Thomas Edison is on a train, and then a lady does train crimes, and then she's arrested for doing such. There's about 20 to 30 villains in this series. Not all of them got cooked properly. 2012 and 1912. The Titanic sinks, and just need to emphasize this once again, the secret society just let it happen. Might come as a shock for some, but usually I lose my cool near the end of our lovely discussions. But the implication that every single tragedy, event, and disaster that happened on Earth happened in Poptropica is too much. Do you have any idea how many tragedies that would include? We already saw Pompeii. We already saw the Titanic. Do you know what else is all but confirmed in Poptropica land? Slavery, communism, crusades, plagues, hurricanes, both world wars and everything surrounding them. The Salem witch trials, assassinations, Stranger Things, you name it, the Pringle people have done it. All bad things. I have limits. I wanted to take this seriously, but this is too much, and my little chipmunk brain can't handle it. So let's just move right, mosey right over to 24
Yes,
Carrot
it
Island
is.
in
He's back
2009,
again.
and I want to say somewhere around the Great Depression. This is Dr. Hare. For some reason, he's one of the most popular characters in the series. Initially, he was just a dude studying at the National Institute of Silly Sciences until an experiment went horribly wrong and exposed him with rabbits or gamma radiation or something, and gadzooks, now he's a rabbit person.
Gadzooks.
Goodness gravy. So now the rabbit part of his brain is apparently evil, and because of that, he wants to rule all of Poptropica. His plans start with him stealing all the carrots and then abducting some children. Big ambitions, poor execution. He's flying in space for the time being because he failed that his spaceship blew up. Early 2010 and probably the 80s. Counterfeit Island. I was told this is a pretty popular island with lots of stuff in it. I only want to talk about Balloon Boy. This is the greatest character in the series, no competition. In this island, you give him a counterfeit balloon that takes him into the sky forever. I'm not even joking about this. You can just see him in the background of a lot of random areas in the game, existing in his own silly world with nothing but him and a green balloon. I love this guy mainly because he reminds me of Cliffhanger from Between the Lines, and I like Between the Lines. And with that, we have finished everything you need to know with the first part of this timeline. Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of news. I wouldn't say it's bad, but from the looks of it, some of the islands take place in the future, or at least that's what it seems like. I wouldn't know. There's this one island I'm putting here, but I guess it could be anywhere in the timeline. In 2008, there was Time Tangled Island. You know what's better than a game about time travel? An island about time travel inside the game that's about time travel. In my opinion, this is the best normal island to introduce players into the game. Just an easy time travel adventure. It was the one where I said a lot of fun stuff to myself, like, why do I need to go into 2 inventories when attempting to use an island? Or why is this game considered educational? I would say like 4% of this game was even remotely educational. And why are all the controls in this game only using a computer mouse? You got over 12 fun buttons on a keyboard. It might just be me, but some of my fingers on my right hand cramp really quickly from excessive clicking. So this is more of a personal problem than anything, but if you want to avoid my terrible fate, word of advice, if a friend challenges you to punch a saw blade, don't punch a saw blade. especially when it's running. Anyway, this island involves you saving the future by going back in time and fixing a dozen points in time. Does this Pop Tropica island remind you of anything? It's Pop Tropica. There's a Pop Tropica inside a Pop Tropica. This is a planet model versus the actual solar system. Next island, the near future. We're in the future now. Mission Atlantis seems to have really advanced submarines and aliens. Lunar Colony Island is based on a moon base, and Cryptid Island has cryptids. I put all of them in the near future because of Cryptid Island specifically. A big part of the island follows the Jersey Devil, which in this situation is 300 years old. The Jersey Devil was born in 1735 in the original story, so just add 300 to it, and now we got the year 2035. Now these islands could be interchangeable in order, but a moon base and more advanced submarines seem plausible enough to hover around 2035. But I mean, come back in 12 years and let me know. I'll give you a high five if I'm not dead. The nearest future, I suppose. It's slightly more in the future. Virus Hunter Island, Superpower Island, and Spy Island are all in this kind of weird limbo. They most likely take place in the future, and respectively, they have shrinking technology devices and nanotech, superpowers available to the public, and spy technology. So really, it would more so be based on when these things show up in the world. They might already exist. I wouldn't know. You think I care about nanotech? No. I'm just a stupid cartoon on the internet. My favorite color is purple. Do you think I care about your stupid
My favorite color is purple.
No, I don't. I care about Pop Tropica, my favorite game called Pop Tropica. And again, you could treat this like this is part of a different timeline, which I won't be doing, but please consider these can go a few places. The not as nearest future. Here we have the latest islands, in my eyes at least. Game Show Island follows a world that faces an AI takeover. I'm pretty sure this might be a plot hole though, namely because of Time Tangled Island having both a good future and a bad future. This just feels odd to me for some reason. Like, I can't put my finger on it. Your character is in the future in this one. And then after whatever that nightmare was, is Steamworks Island. Not much to add here. It's steampunk. It's in the name. And finally, with that, we have finished talking about all the islands connected to Harrison. I really thought that would be it, but nope. We got two special types of islands that need to be added to the discussion. Both of them are completely separate to our lovable little Earth equivalent, but they happen to be existing in separate ways. The first type is the Sponsor Islands. One of the most beloved parts of Pop Tropica happens to be the crossovers. Usually the crossovers being from stuff you would expect me to talk about on this channel. Crossovers and ads typically consist of promotions between rooms. In this case, when I was playing, I saw Paw Patrol characters throughout the browser version, and they do that. And in special cases, there's entire islands dedicated to certain series, like The King, Big Nate Island, which you currently can't play on any available versions of the game. To my knowledge, at least. I spent $20 on Pop Tropica on Steam. Why can't I play Big Nate Island? In fact, why can't I even play Wimpy Kid Island? The author of the books, Jeff Kinney, created the game. I just want to see Roderick in the funny point-and-click platformer game, but yo, we got Timmy Failure, and that's great and all, but I just want to hang out with Big Nate. I just want to hang out with Big Nate. You should know the drill by now. I'm gonna play the multiverse card. Try and stop me. You can't. The last type of islands are the ones that I believe exist exclusively within the Pop Tropica realm. There are 5 of these islands. Let's start off with the first ever added island to Pop Tropica in 2007. Early Pop Tropica. From the vibes of it, early Pop Trop is basically Pilgrim stuff. The characters here are pixelated, and really all they're doing here is colonizing, because this is technically the start of the Pop Tropica timeline. Spoilers from, like, the past 15 minutes, I'm guessing. They've already succeeded. I'm sure you're shocked that Pop Tropica exists. 2010, Reality TV Island. This one is only important because of the fact characters throughout a few of the islands return here to compete. Like Dr. Hare, for example. He's in this one as a contestant, and this is important because of the next island released in 2012, Super Villain Island. And this is probably what I would consider the climax of a good amount of these characters and islands. Basically, every other important villain in the Pop Tropica timeline up to this point returns here. Captain Crawfish, Dr. Hare, Binary Bard, that one lady from Counterfeit Island that I ignored because the Balloon Boy is so much cooler, and the rest of them, like that one guy who shrunk himself in Shrink Ray Island, he's also here. I forgot to talk about him. Friendly reminder that Octavian isn't here because 1, that island takes place 3 years from now, and 2, he's dead anyway, it doesn't matter. A scientist named Dr. Jupiter hires you, and you specifically, to go in the minds of some of the villains in the super prison to extract their evil. This is kind of where we get to see why some of these characters act in these ways as well. Dr. Hare, for example, had the rabbit section of his brain bullied when it was young, and that is why he abducts children and tries to take over the world. Eventually you find all the totems of evil that makes the evil
Nasty.
dude's evil, and you give him to Dr. Jupiter. And that's all pretty good until he lashes out. He's kind of a dick biscuit about it. Hey, wait a minute. I only know one dick biscuit in Pop Tropica. That's Zeus. Now you gotta fight him to save the day. And then you do that. 2013 Pop Tropica, aka this island is stupid and makes my head hurt too much. This adventure is about Pop Tropica headquarters being under new management and repairing this mess of an island. This
Now
is
what?
an island about making the game that made this island.
Now what? What's another cowboys? Which one do we do now? We did stripy kitties. Oh, what's wait, I saw one that had a bunch of them. Can you get bigger? You get bigger! Let me look at it! Oh, you got bigger. Which one should we do? There's a lot of them. What's that one called? I can't read it. It's too big. What's it? I hide you for a minute. Egyptian Mings. Mao? Mao, is that it? Spotty Cat. I kind of want to go to bed. It looks the same. I don't know. I did orange. I did gray. What's another color? Well, that's cute. Maybe we could do that one. We'll start it.
That's one of
when the video's over. I'm
timelines.
gonna go to
I'm
bed
just gonna
'cause I'm
call it
sleepy now.
canon, but if we're being honest, that's more of an opinion than anything. Like, friendly reminder, the timeline looks like this. It's just so many time points. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Doesn't matter? No, it doesn't, because I just said it doesn't matter. 2014 Pop Tropicon. An in-universe Comic-Con that's a lot of fun, makes everyone jolly, until this one guy, Omegon, who's supposedly a villain from a movie in the Pop Tropica world, takes over the convention and enslaves everyone who didn't escape it in time. The finale of this little island sees his ass being beat the absolute dickens out of so much that he falls off and starts appearing in reality TV with the Grim Reaper and Bob Ross. So there you have it. That is everything there is to know about Pop Tropica's world. Oh wait, shit, 2017, Pop Tropica Worlds. This is a sequel spin-off thingy. It's the same thing, I don't care, yada yada yada. It got shut down, now we're caught up. That is everything. Here's an official Chupo timeline of the islands. Again, I skipped and trimmed through the islands, but if I were to guess, it looks something like this. Don't take this as fact, but more so like a template of my own version of the order of events. You know, there's a good chance some of this is wronger than wrong, but going by Pop Tropica logic, there's a timeline where I was entirely right, so you can't argue with this. This is fact. I'm smarter and cooler than you. Even though I didn't acknowledge all of the islands, I still liked a good amount of them. I enjoyed Pelican Rock and Monster Carnival specifically. A lot of these stories are really secluded and limited, so there's not much to say. And when it comes to most of the islands I didn't even talk about, they mostly just have a formula of something being missing or not being how it's supposed to. Then you do puzzles until you confront the person who's responsible, fix everything, and then get a medal. That's about all I can say with them. There's stuff that happens between that stuff, of course, but it's just like, I don't need to add that much. And the same applies with realms. I don't even know what realms are, dude. I played one, and I was like, okay, that's enough for me. I'm putting a restraining order on that. Really, though, the future of Pop Tropica is kind of weird, you know? There's so many versions. It is kind of a bummer. The version with the most content had to be shut down. Hey, Pop Tropica people, if you're watching this, I had a pretty neat time. I had a lot of fun. There was a lot of charm. Very witty. It's a good game. It still is a good game. Your timeline sucks. Hate to say it, that's both of our bads. I could maybe explain it better, but to be fair, like, Do you see what I'm working with? Also, if you could please bring back Big Nate Island on every version, that would be really cool. Maybe even the controls. I would like to use my controller more. That's more of an option than anything. Otherwise, yeah, good job. Sorry I called you Poop Tropka that one time on Twitter.com. I had a bad day involving a saw blade in my fist. I hope you understand. But this was as complicated as it was fun. I hope you enjoyed learning about Pop Tropka and by proxy Harrison. I hope you stick around for some more of my funny ramblings. There's already a ton that exist, and I hope you guys fix this gosh diddly darn statistic. It's been upside down for months now. This and this should be the opposite. If you guys want to fix it, feel free to. You know, I'm not your mom. I'm not your mom, but I am president. So actually, no, you might have to subscribe. I could make horses illegal if I wanted to. I'm the goddamn president of the United States of...
Do you even know what the president does?
Yeah, you make laws and you declare war on people when you're like really... when you don't like their foods or something.
No, there's like a whole system behind it. All right. Let me list what you can do.
47 years
That's
later.
what the president does? That's so lame. I'm changing the laws of that.
Chupo, buddy, did you not just hear me for the past 47 minutes? You literally can't make laws for millions of people to follow on a whim.
I'm also making it illegal for you to exist. You're hurting my feelings, so have fun not existing. Boop. Anyway.
Hey, good times. Anyways, I'm gonna stop. I need to go to bed. I'm sleepy now. We'll sing a song though. Oh wait, there's one more. Oh shit, do I have? No more of the kids' video.
Standard textbook. Yeah. A homeowner cut a big hole in the wall because they're wily, and then they must have hit a cable or something.
Is that happening a lot?
In Canada alone, 1 million homes a second.
That can't be right.
Now this right here, this ain't textbook.
Wordy kids.
What the heck is that?
Wordy
Tiny little spatula
Wordy
band. What that means?
No.
No.
A myth and folklore?
To mom and pop of the family dog, yes, but to us, to electricians, no, we know them well.
We do?
Put your nose down here. Do you smell that?
I smell something. What is that?
Garlic, mint, cashews. That's a standard gnome supper they're cooking in there.
No, nobody's cooking anything.
Pie for dessert.
Hold on, they got pie?
Wait,
Hey, hold on.
we wanted to...
How much pie are you cooking?
About 2 dozen.
2 dozen pies?
Well, they're quite small.
They're quite small.
Can we have some, please?
You alright?
You alright?
What is this, sugar?
That's little powder that shrinks you down, babe.
I've always wanted to wander the halls, the walls of a house like a rat.
Me too, man.
You two are the first humans who've ever been in here. Normally we just use a shrinking powder on our spatulas.
I've seen those.
Just spatulas, not pots and pans or anything?
Oh, we know how to make pots and
So
pans.
cute, I love Where the
Figure
Kids.
out spatulas, we had to shrink them.
That's very ingenuitous.
Oh, is this the pie room?
Let there be no doubt about it.
Saint Peter, blow your trumpet. Wow.
Wow.
One and only.
So what kind of meat do you use?
Well, we use beef, of course, but we do shrink the cows down beforehand.
That makes sense.
So the shrinking powder is just the spatulas and cows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and him too.
Who are you?
Oh, it's another electrician.
How long have you been down here?
Man, said Star Wars, you know?
Star Wars.
I thought you said we were the first humans down here.
I forgot all about that guy, frankly. Fresh gooseberry, who's hungry?
Oh, me!
That's it. Walnums. Where the Kids make such good stuff. Anyways. Yeah, sure. This is Lucy Dawkins. I don't want to be funny anymore. I don't want to be funny anymore. I don't want to be funny anymore. Lately I've been feeling like the odd man out. I heard my friends saying things that don't mean out loud. I don't wanna be funny anymore. I got a too short skirt, maybe I can be the cute one. Is there room in the band? I don't need to be the front man. If not, then I'll be the biggest fan. I don't want the joke to be on me. Yeah, I'll buy the clothes and I'll be the best dressed. Yeah, I'll read the books and I'll be the smartest. I'll play guitar and I'll be the artist. Try not to laugh, I know it'll be hard. I'm serious, I know it's a first bite. I don't wanna be funny anymore. Yeah, I'll be the gossip, hear it through the grapevine. Pass it on, she's done with the old times. That funny girl doesn't wanna smile for a while. And that's the end of the song. Yay! Anyways, have a good evening. I'll see y'all next weekend. Goodbye for now. Wow, thank you so much for stopping by. I will see y'all. That's the wrong one. Goodbye. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.
you.